Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is story about what if Naruto x Rias arranged marriage part 1. Before I start, please do support for more amazing content and comments for part 2. Do consider to subscribe my channel and share my video to your friends and check out the description as well. Let's start the video. Yo! I'm Naruto Namikaze, nice to meet ya, he said with a lazy wave. Chaos ensued. He absolutely hated it. Do you have a girlfriend? One girl said. Where are you from? Another girl shouted. Oh great, another pretty boy. This time it was a guy that said that. Go back to where you came from, shouted another guy. We don't need another Kiba. Another guy said, I say we kill him. Okay, that was obviously a threat. Alright class, settle down, the teacher said over the loud noise the students were making. He then turned to me. Now Namikaze-san, why don't you sit next to Gremory-san over there? He said as he pointed to a girl. Said girl was extremely beautiful. She was dressed in the Ko Academy uniform for females, which consisted of a white long-sleeved button-down shirt with vertical lining, and a black ribbon on the shirt collar. She also had a black shoulder cape which matched the black button-down corset, a magenta skirt with white accents and brown dress shoes over white crew-length socks. However, it wasn't her clothes but her hair that stuck out the most. It was a distinct crimson color that was similar to the color of blood. It flowed out from the top of her head to the back of her thighs, with a single strand at the top, and loose bangs covering her forehead. Her eyes were a blue-green color like gems and her skin was a porcelain white. She also has some of the largest he had ever seen, which admittedly he had seen a fair amount of large-eyed women in his life. All in all, she was certainly a gorgeous woman by any man's and a few women's standards. And he walked up to the empty chair beside her, and the teacher began his lesson for the day. All the while, Rias had been staring at him wide-eyed. Later. That was right, he was at Ko Academy, a prestigious school in the city of Ko, Japan. Originally it used to be an all-girls school, however in recent years it unexpectedly became a co-ed school. Consequently this led to a larger number of females to males in the student population, which makes it an ideal location for all males. All males except him. Vultures, a lot of them, he mumbled to himself. He was a fairly tall person, standing at a height of 180 centimeters, 5 feet 11 inches tall. He appeared to have black spiky hair and had blue eyes like the ocean, a trait that he had inherited from his father, pale skin and a round face. He wore the standard Ko blazer, which was black with white accents with matching black pants and brown dress shoes. He however had foregone the white button-up shirt and decided to wear an orange shirt instead. All in all he was rather handsome, if a bit plain-looking. Currently he was wandering the endless halls of the Ko Academy. During the lunch period one of the reasons was to get away from all the people, many of which were so faceless that all they could do was talk about the ones who had a sliver of individuality. Another reason was he was keeping an eye out for something interesting, so to say. So far nothing, but who knows what he could find. Slam. His thoughts were ended when he turned the corner and abruptly slammed into something, or should he say someone. Sorry about that, he said, as he got up and lowered his hand to help the other person. No, it was my fault, she said as she grabbed the hand and used it to help herself up. The person was none other than the girl he had sat next to in class earlier. Well anyways, Miss he asked, fishing for a name. Rias Gremory, she said, introducing herself. Well Rias, I'm Naruto Namikaze, he introduced himself in a similar manner. But I have to ask, why were you staring at me earlier? He asked, scratching his cheek a little. Said girl had the decency to blush a little out of embarrassment for being caught red-handed. You noticed that? She asked. He chuckled a little. It was kinda hard not to notice after you did it the entire class. Rias then clutched a necklace that he didn't notice before. It was a silver chain with a matching silver vial with some kind of liquid inside. It was rather unassuming on her gorgeous frame that it almost looked unnoticeable. I guess you reminded me of a friend, she said, looking away in sadness. Noticing the change in atmosphere, was he a good friend? He asked. Rias smiled a little in remembrance. Yes, he was. Well, if you don't mind me asking, he paused. What happened to this friend of yours? He died, she said somberly, in a fire. Abruptly, and breaking the sad mood, the bell rang, signifying the end of the period. Well, Rias-chan, if I can call you that? Naruto said / asked. The girl just nodded her head with a smile. If I may call you Naruto-kun. It's a deal. He accepted. Well Rias-chan, I'd better head to class, he said with a wave, as he walked off. He did, however, narrow his eyes at a nearby office. Said office was for the school nurse, who just so happened to have black circular glass with long silver hair put into a ponytail. "I see," she stated as she looked over the chessboard. "You were right, 100%, said her, Rook." Said girl, Kaneko Tuja, was a short, petite girl with short white hair and golden eyes. She had 2 white bangs going past her shoulders and several loose bangs over her forehead, while the back had a short bob cut, with 2 black cat hair clips on each side of her hair. For attire, she wore the standard uniform, although she had foregone the shoulder cape. All in all, she was incredibly cute, and often reminded people of a cat. Yeah, you totally called it. Standing next to her was her queen, Akino Himejima. She had violet eyes that sparkled with mischief. Her long flowing black hair was styled into a high ponytail that reached down to her legs with an orange ribbon, with 2 strands sticking out from the top and backward. She also had, much to her own reluctance to admit, that were in fact larger than her own. Like her, she wore the full uniform, except she had black calf-length socks instead of white. All in all, she was a model Yamato Nadeshiko, or ideal Japanese woman. "I'm just glad I asked you two to keep a close eye on him," she responded. "Yup," came the short reply from Kaneko. Akino then turned to her and asked, "What's next? What do we do with him now?" "We need to make our preparations immediately," she said as she moved her pawn. Rias Gremory was having a great day. She had found out that one of the students here had a particular scent thanks to her, Rook, a draconic scent. Dragons were known to be strong creatures, with the weakest of their species usually being around a high-class devil in power. For a student to have the scent of a dragon, he would have to have dragon blood or a dragon-type sacred gear, and she was leaning towards the latter. Dragon-type sacred gears were powerful with even the weakest, that being the sacred gear, twice critical, which was able to double the user's power, being useful. To reinforce this, said student had been targeted by a fallen angel, when one had asked him out on a date. Sure, it could have been that the former angel had fallen for her underclassman, but she doubted it. For the Grigori to target a human, it meant that he was powerful. All she had to do was slip a flyer onto his person, and when he had a strong desire, she would be summoned. And she would be there to save him and hopefully win his loyalty in one fell swoop. With luck, he had the potential to be a strong individual, and he could help defeat him, and get her out of the marriage her family had forced her into. All in all, her plans were set, and she was having a good day. That was until she had met him. He had reminded her so much of him. He had similar spiky hair, and he even had a love for orange, judging by his shirt. However, the thing that resembled her fallen friend the most was his eyes. Eyes that were so much like the ocean. But he was gone, and he wasn't coming back. She felt her eyes water. She had long buried these emotions, but since this Namikaze fellow came to Ko, they had been re-emerging. "Rias, are you alright?" asked her queen, with concern lacing her eyes. "It's nothing, I'm fine." Wiping the tears, she stood up and walked out of the room. She needed to be strong, especially in front of her peerage. Even if it hurt after all it had been so long ago. As she left, Akino and Kaneko had deep frowns marring their beautiful faces. The next day. Issei Hayata was having the best day today. Why? You may ask. Well, today he had a date. A date? With a real girl. 2 days ago he had almost had a heart attack when he had been asked out. And yesterday he had totally freaked out his 2 friends Matsuda and Motohama, when he showed up with his new girlfriend Yuma Amano. She was a girl any man would kill for, with a slender body and large bust. She had long black hair and violet eyes, with an innocent look to them. First they had gone to a clothing store and tried on lots of outfits. He had even gotten her a pink scrunchie. Then they had gone out for some ice cream, where she had shown a large amount of her cleavage, so much so that he almost choked when she had almost caught him peeking. Then now they were rounding the entire date off at the park, it around sunset. "I sure had fun today," Yuma said right next to him. "Yeah, this was the best date ever," he replied. It was then that he had almost touched her hand, and he nearly died. It was so amazing. "Dude, I think this is my chance to make a move," he thought to himself. It was then that Yuma grabbed his hand. Both of their faces were on fire. "I'm touching her." She then abruptly let go of his hand and ran up to the nearby fountain. She then turned back to him, hands behind her back. She asked, "Can I ask you a question? In honor of our first date, there is something I'd like you to do." She then walked forward and bowed. "Did? I'm totally gonna get to kiss her. This rocks," Issei mentally screamed. "Sure, you can ask me for anything at all," he said quickly. She hummed, then tilted her head up, her eyes losing all the innocence they had before. She asked, "Would you die for me?" "What did you say?" he asked, cleaning his ear a little to hear her better. "Sorry, something must be wrong with my ears. I don't think I heard you correctly. Could you maybe say that one more time, please?" he said with an awkward laugh. She then got up close, so close he could feel her warm breath on his skin, and said in a whisper, "I want you to die for me." She then backed away and her clothes had exploded off her body, leaving her completely in the nude. She grew taller, her grew bigger, and her eyes gained an evil glint. However, the most notable thing was the dark, crow-like pair of wings that sprouted from her back. It was then, in a magical girl-like fashion, sparkles seemed to surround her. Clothing materialized upon her perfect skin. However, instead of the innocent clothing she had on before, these were a lot more provocative. Now she had on leather strap-like objects around and under her, a thong-like piece held around her hips by 3 thin straps, gloves that ran right up her arms with small lengths of chains hanging from them, shoulder guard-like objects on her shoulders with 3 large spikes sprouting from her right shoulder, and black thigh-high heel boots. All in all, instead of the innocent schoolgirl, she now looked like a mature woman with a fetish for S. Judging by her new smile, she was likely an S. "She looks like a demon," he mentally screamed, as he fell backwards. "Are those wings?" "Well, I have to admit, I did have some fun today. Considering how naive and childish you are, things could have been much, much worse." She then took a look to admire the pink scrunchie he had given her earlier. "Thanks a lot for the gift, very sweet." But even so, she held out her hand and a red light began to form in front of her into the shape of a spear. "It's time to die." Her voice was deeper, more malicious. "Why, Yuma, please," he said in shock of her transformation. She then threw the spear at him, and he felt nothing but pain in his chest. Blood rushed out from the wound, and he tried his best to apply pressure to the hole where his chest used to be. "I'm sorry, but the fact is you were far too great a risk to us. I had no choice but to dispose of you," she said tauntingly. "If you're looking for someone to blame, why not blame him? He gave you your sacred gear." What in the hell is she talking about? He thought, as blood erupted from his mouth and he fell onto his back. "Oh, thanks again for the lovely date, it was fun," she said as she flew off, leaving behind black feathers when she assented. All the while, as he lay dying on the floor in a pool of blood, he could only think of one thing: what a bitch. Am I really about to die like this? Alone and pathetic, a giant virgin? If you were gonna kill me, couldn't you have let me squeeze or jiggle your jugs first? I only got to look at them for a second, but I could see how bouncy they were. Oh, Yuma! Bringing his hand up with all the strength he had left, he could only stare at the blood that covered it. Red, the same color as her hair. He thought about Rias Gremory in his final moments, darker than any hair I've ever seen. Just like the color running down my hand. Long, beautiful, crimson hair just like this. His hand collapsed to the ground and his breathing became even more ragged. Wait, why the crap am I talking like this? I'm about to freaking die. It's over. Damn, I can't even move anymore. Trying to touch a pair of orbs, what a stupid way for a person to die. He admitted, to be honest, I know I've lived a shallow life. Next time around, one gonna try real hard to be a better person. The only thing I can think about is Rias. With her pretty red hair and huge gazongas. If I'm gonna die, then why can't I do it by motorboating those glorious fun bags? A bright red light began to emerge from his person, and with it a bright red magic circle appeared in the sky. Emerging from her summoning circle, a woman with blood-red hair was brought forth in a shower of sparkles. "I have come. You are the one who summoned me, are you not?" Her hair and clothing billowed out in the wind. "Who is that?" he thought. "Since death is upon you, I will gladly take you in." It was then, not that he could see, bat-like wings began to emerge from her back. "From this moment forward, you will live your life for my sake." Unknown to them, high up in the trees a person could be seen watching the entire scene. It was none other than Naruto Namikaze, the boy she had met earlier that week. He chuckled to himself. "Way to go, Rias-chan, you always did have a flair for the dramatic," he said as if he were familiar with her for a long time. It was then another being made its presence known. She must be pretty lucky to have gotten the Red Dragon Emperor in her peerage, though I doubt the White One would be happy with his performance today. It was a small creature, about the size of a dog. It resembled a fox, with a red-orange coat of fur. It, however, had a human-like torso with completely opposable thumbs on its clawed hands. It had black fur around its red menacing eyes that were slitted like a cat, with 2 rabbit-like ears protruding from its head. However, its most notable feature was its 7 tails, that flowed like a fire around its back. This was Kurama, his familiar that just so happened to be with him through everything that has happened in his life within the past decade. Chuckling, "No, I doubt they will like how much of a pervert he is," he said fondly. "Still no word of the snake?" the fox asked. His eyes lost the happiness that they once had as he narrowed them. "No, but we do have confirmation he is within the school." "I know, but I don't understand why he should choose here of all places," Kurama said lazily. Naruto nodded. Ko is a supernatural hotspot. Simply by existing, this place attracts all sorts of strong creatures, he said, pointing at the fallen Red Dragon Emperor that was being dragged off to be healed as an example. "But that is just the entire city," he continued. "The snake is specifically in Ko Academy, which is home to 2 high-class devils that just so happen to be related to 2 Mao. My guess is that he plans to do something with one or both of them. So for now we wait for him to make a mistake, as I continue to play the student." Kurama grinned, showing his enlarged canines. "Well, with the death of his master, the snake will no doubt make a move soon." Naruto showing a grin of his own. "I guess you're right," he agreed. "Do you think that little red is onto you?" the demon Kitsune asked. "I think she has some feeling that I'm not who I say I am." He then gestured to the pair of bracelets that had strange writing on them he had hidden underneath his uniform sleeves. "But thanks to these seals I'm just a normal student." He then gestured to the back of his neck, moving a few strands of his black hair. There was a piece of paper with similar writing to what he had on his bracelets. He then channeled some magic into the seal. His appearance changed. His black hair was now a bright yellow, similar to that of the sun. His pale skin became a lot more tan, which was another trait he had gotten from his father. 3 whisker-like birthmarks marred each cheek. All in all, if the boy earlier had been handsome, this boy would certainly be called exotic. "Still, I don't know why you chose a look so similar to yourself," Kurama admitted. He shrugged to himself. Most people don't pay attention to those around them enough to actually put things together. "And the orange?" Kurama asked. "Hey, don't diss the orange. Especially when I don't get to wear it often enough," he said, defending his favorite color. "Do you plan for it to stay that way?" the fox asked. He frowned. As far as she knows, Naruto Uzumaki is dead, and it's best that it stays that way for her sake. Deciding to change the subject, he turned to the fox and asked, "How are the others doing?" Kurama gained a thoughtful expression, as he put his paw/hand under his chin. "Rabbit, shark, and owl are about finished with their mission, so they should return soon. Dog, deer, monkey, and raven are still on guard duty with the big fox. Your queen is training as usual. And cat, tanuki, and slug are off on their own," he said, giving the locations of his other peerage members. "You know, when she finds out we are here, she isn't gonna be happy," the fox said after some thought. Naruto knew exactly who he was referring to. He gained a bittersweet smile. Yeah, she was always so overprotective. He missed that. Naruto then leaned forward a little. "Tell them all to get ready, because I have a feeling that something is gonna happen soon." "Do you think it is the red clouds?" Kurama asked. Instantly, Naruto got a dark expression at the mention of them. His eyes turned a blood red, the pupil shrunk, and there appeared to be 3 tomo encircling it. "I don't know, but for now we continue to wait for the snake to make its move." Kurama nodded. He then disappeared in the darkness. Naruto was alone with his thoughts, and all he could do was stare at the setting sun. "Well, Tomato-chan, I hope you are prepared, because dark storms are coming," he said in remembrance of his childhood friend. Flashback 12 years ago. "Naruto! Naruto! Naruto! We're about to leave, you know," a woman shouted. Said woman was extremely beautiful, and appeared to be in her mid-20s with fair skin, a slender build, and violet eyes. And she was wearing an ornate green dress that had a slit in the front to show a moderate amount of her chest. However, the feature she was most known for is her long red hair, which, depending on who you asked, was the color of a tomato. If you did ask those people and they responded as such, it's likely that they wouldn't say that for very long, as she had a reputation to beat those who called her that specific name. Her name was Kushina Uzumaki, his mother. And currently she was pissed. How did he know? You might ask. Well, you could tell because currently, her hair was arranged itself into 9 tail-like protrusions that were somehow defying physics, as they were floating. Oh, and did he mention that her eyes were glowing, because they were a menacing white? He was in deep trouble. It was best to hide. Now, Kushi-chan, I think I know how to get him to come out," said a man. Said man was almost an older version of himself. He had similar tan skin, blue eyes, and blonde hair. Like his own, his hair was spiking out, but his was longer, with 2 jaw-length bangs that framed his face. He was also wearing a very expensive-looking blue suit, with a white shirt and matching my blue tie. This man was his father, Minato Uzumaki, formerly of the Phoenix clan. "Oh Naruto," he shouted, "if you come out I'll try to teach you my signature technique." "Really?" he called out from his closet, not thinking about his current situation at all. It was then that he was pulled out by his mother from his collar. And it was then he realized his mistake. His mother raised her fist into the air and smack! Out of the closet came out a young 6-year-old boy, with golden hair, blue eyes, and 3 whisker marks on each cheek that made him look extremely cute. He was currently nursing the lump on the top of his head, courtesy of his mother. "Nope," his father said with a nice smile. Pouting, he grumbled. "I don't understand why I have to go and meet some stuck-up rich guys all the time." "Well, Naruto," his mother chastised as she waved her finger in the air. "Today we are visiting the Gremory estate, with Lord and Lady Gremory. I hear they have a daughter around your age. Who knows, you could be friends," she said in thought. His mother then clasped her hands together, and flowers appeared around her, which totally contrasted with her mood just a few minutes ago. "Or maybe she could be your girlfriend in the future, and you two fall in love, and get married. But don't have kids too soon, there are too many kids having children with hussies these days, you know." Tears then welled up in her eyes. "Oh Minato. Our kid is growing up too fast, it just felt like yesterday I was changing his diapers, you know." "Mum," he whined, interrupting his mother's ramblings. Minato just chuckled and rubbed the back of his head. "Oh, I don't think we have to worry about that for a while, Kushi-chan." His mother blushed out of embarrassment. "I know, it's just sometimes I start to ramble on, and it just doesn't stop. But I try to stop, but I can't help it, and it just gets out of control more and more, you know, and I'm gonna be quiet now," she said after she realized she had been rambling again. "Alright, Will, let's go," he said, gesturing to the time. He then leaned down towards his ear, and whispered, "And who knows, maybe I'll end up teaching you the first step of my Rasengan if you behave." "Fine," he sighed, wanting to get this entire thing over with. One train ride later. The Gremory estate was large, larger than his own family's house. It was grand, with a multitude of exotic plants. It was larger than it needed to be and was only good for one thing, a show of wealth. As devils, showing your own power was in your blood, but still. It just seemed too much. After the guards let them in, the inside was much the same as the outside of the house, grand. The halls were heavy in the color red, with ornate and intricate paintings lining the walls. They were led to a room by a maid. They had no doubt chosen one of the more beautiful ones they had on staff. She stopped at a door and bowed. "Lord and Lady Gremory are waiting inside," she said as she opened the door. Inside were 3 people, 2 adults and 1 child. The man, no doubt Lord Gremory. He had the appearance of a man in his mid-30s, though he was likely much older than that. He had vibrant red hair that was tied into a loose ponytail, with a black hair band. He had bright blue-green eyes, with a short beard along his chin. His wife, Lady Gremory, had brown hair and violet eyes. Her hair was short, only going down to her upper back with 2 bangs framing her face and a single strand at the top. She wore an elegant white dress that was cut low to show off her large chest. It also showed the beautiful necklace with a violet gem that matched her eyes. "Greetings, Lord and Lady Uzumaki. I hope your travels here have served you well," the Lord of House Gremory greeted. His father stepped forward. "Greetings, Lord and Lady Gremory. Our trip here was most pleasant. It is an honor to be here." "Excellent. And might I say, the pleasure is all mine." He then gestured to his wife, or more specifically, the child hiding behind his wife. The child, about his age, and judging by how much she resembled her mother, she would no doubt grow up to be beautiful. Like her mother, her hair was long, with 2 bangs framing her face and a single strand at the top. However, like her father, she inherited his luscious crimson red hair and blue-green eyes. She was obviously nervous. "Allow me to introduce my daughter," he gestured to the child. She stepped up and said the first thing that came to her mind. "Whiskers." He saw red, Huiakalan whiskers. "Ya tomato!" he called out in rage. Rias puffed her cheeks out at the remark and gave him a vicious glare. She was about to retort, only to turn pale as she got a look of her mother's stern look. The ladies of the 2 houses had enough reserve of their emotions to remain a calm neutral, Their husbands, however, did not. They were chuckling at the scene, but they quickly regained their composure. "Sorry about that," his father said while rubbing the back of his head. Lord Gremory chuckling, "No need, I should be the one to apologize." Lady Gremory bumped her child with her elbow to signal for her to speak. She bowed. "My apologies, my name is Rias Gremory, heir to the Gremory clan." "Whatever you say, tomato," he grumbled. Smack. "Ow," he said, nursing the bruise his mother had inflicted upon him, to which he received a similar injury to what he had gotten earlier from his mother. Sighing, he conceded. "I apologize as well," he said with a bow. "My name is Naruto Uzumaki, heir to the Uzumaki clan." Lord Gremory clasped his hands together. "Excellent. Now, Rias, why don't you take young Naruto here and show him around the estate? I know these things can get a little boring for you." "All right, father," she said, as grabbed his hand and dragged him out the door. "Come on, Whiskers-kun, I have so many places to show you," all the while he was kicking and screaming for her to let go. "Kids these days," Ziaticus said in mirth. Rias had certainly been enthused to show him her estate, even if it was needlessly large. Maybe she just didn't get a lot of time to spend it with children their age. He had given up on trying to free his hand from her vice-like grip. It was like he just met a younger version of his mother. That thought had terrified him. "And this is my room," she said, stopping at a door. "Sweet," he went up and opened the door. "Wait," Rias said in a panicked tone. Inside was what you would expect of a normal bedroom. It had a large princess-style bed, a window to look out of with a nice view, and it even had a large TV. What you wouldn't expect was the large amounts of anime, plushies, memorabilia, posters, figures, and a wide collection of manga that all lined the walls. She had a little bit of everything from action to romance to thrillers, no specific genre. It told him one thing about Rias he would have never guessed. It just screamed she was a Japanophile. Looking back at the owner of the room, he could see her blushing madly out of embarrassment. She wouldn't make eye contact with him at all. She had even let go of his hand in her panic. "You probably think I'm worried, don't you?" she muttered out. "Yes," he said, without a moment's hesitation. That just made her shrink in on herself more. She covered her now redder face with her hands, and she kept her gaze firmly on the floor, as if she wished it would swallow her whole. He felt like an ass for barging into her room like that. He laid a hand on her shoulder. "But it also makes you cool," he said, surprising the girl. She peeked her eye out from her hands and asked timidly, "It does?" "Of course it does," he said, reaffirming his earlier statement. "It makes you different from the other boring people I've met." "And that makes me cool?" she asked, shocked by his statement. "Yup," he confirmed. Would you want to watch some with me?" she asked. He'd never watched any of this stuff before, I assure. Her smile brightened the entire room. It was beautiful. And before he knew it, he was watching an anime with the girl he had just met a few hours ago. It was fun. "Oh, they're so cute," his mother squealed. Then Alana giggled at the scene, while Minato and Ziaticus had smiles on their faces. The scene they were staring at was Naruto and Rias curled up next to each other, asleep on Rias's bed. Both had a content smile on their faces as they laid in each other's embrace. It seems they had fallen asleep while watching their show. "Ah, yum love!" Ziaticus sighed wistfully. "Let's get the cameras," his father shouted. Flashback 10 years ago. "Who wants me?" a voice shouted, echoing throughout the forest. "Who's there?" a little girl screamed. "The master of the familiar, Akazotuji," shouted a man from high up in the trees. Zotuji was a middle-aged man with red spiky hair styled in a backwards cap with a little patch of hair sticking out of the front. He wore a white tank top with a blue jacket tied on his waist and brown cargo pants. He also had brown sandals and, to finish off the look, a bright yellow backpack attached firmly on his back. That's right. He was in the familiar forest, along with Rias and her aunt/brothers maid as a bodyguard of sorts. There was also the familiar master, who just so happened to look like a Ash Ketchum wannabe. "That's the familiar master?" he asked incredulously. "Oh wow," the girl next to him said, amazed at his cosplay. "If it goes to Find Familiars Gala, then you've come at the right time, that's for sure. The full moon is out to help you decide, and I'll be the one to act as your guide." he rhymed. Satuji-san is fond of making things rhyme, the maid said next to him. Yeah, he had guessed that. Grafia was a beautiful woman, which seemed to be a constant throughout his life. She appeared to be in her early 20s, her hair was silver and went down to her back. It was styled into 2 long braids on each side of her face with blue bows at the ends and silver eyes. She was currently wearing a blue and white French-made outfit with long blue sleeves and a white-made headband over her head. Why she wore that maid outfit all the time he would never know. In the 2 years he had known her, Rias Gremory hadn't changed that much. She still had the same red hair, gem-like eyes and love for anime. That was probably why she liked the wannabe's outfit. He on the other hand just had one thought. Yeah, nope, he said, and he was about to walk off before he was grabbed by the collar of his shirt by his friend. Oh, come on, Tomato-chan, he whined. Whiskers-kun, she retorted. Tomato-chan. Whiskers-kun. Tomato-chan. Whiskers-kun. He stuck his tongue out, she just pouted cutely. I would refrain from going out on your own in the familiar forest, Naruto-sama, Grafia chastised. Looking back at his friend, he saw her almost pleading eyes. He could tell she wanted him to stay with her. Sighing, all right, let's stay with the Pokemon trainer wannabe, he conceded. Satuji, either not aware of what was going on below or not caring, continued. Now how can I help you? Tell me all your wants and desires. A strong one. A fast one. One that likes to set fires. Rias stepping up to state her wants. I'd like a familiar that is really helpful and super cute and fun. Cute and fun, done and done, was the familiar master's rhythmic reply. I just want something to deliver flyers for me, he grumbled out. The first thing that Satuji showed them was interesting, to say the least. It was a water sprite, Undine to be precise. He didn't know what he was expecting, but watching all the anime he had with Rias, he had guessed it would look a little different. Like a beautiful pale-skinned woman with long elegant cloud-like blue hair, kind of like in the anime Black Clover Rias made him watch. Instead, it was a heavily muscular man-like woman with curly hair, who looked like it could bench press him in half. Not cute at all. A saint might say she had really kind eyes, and that even though she was dull on the outside, that she had a good heart. But he wasn't a saint, he was a devil. And he knew different about the Undine. It was ugly, really ugly. Right now he was with Grafia, Rias and that weird familiar master, just wandering around and hoping to stumble upon something neat. Grafia said the best way to find a good familiar was by brute force and luck or something like that. It was a little more refined, but he got the message. So they were just waiting for themselves to stumble upon something through pure dumb luck. He had always been lucky, so hopefully that luck would pull through here too. Maybe he could get a cool dragon, or a large multi-headed dog or something cool like that. One could only dream. But sadly Satuji had told them that this was the safest part of the forest. Since they only needed a low-level familiar because they were so young, they wouldn't be safe in other parts of the forest. After a few minutes of walking, he heard a particular noise in the foliage. It sounded like whimpering. What's that noise? He asked aloud. What noise do you hear? The familiar master then tried listening for what he heard. Oh dear. It sounds like an animal is in fear. Listening to where the noise was, he pointed in the direction he heard it come from. Quick, Naruto! Let's go! He said, running off in that particular direction. He and Grafia followed, and what they came upon was a baby fox. A fox that didn't look like anything special and only had a singular tail. Although the kitsune did have very large bunny-like ears. It looked like it hurt its leg. Even though it was hurt, it still showed a fire in its eyes. A fire that would strike the moment it saw us as a threat. Holding his palm out to lessen its worry, I leaned down so he could see it better and saw that its leg looked broken. Its leg is broken, he stated. The familiar master used a nearby stick that was thick enough to act as a splint as he tied it to its leg with rope he fished from his bag. After a while it was done, and hopefully it would keep it on long enough for it to heal. He wished he knew healing magic. It would be pretty useful right about now. This boy's parents must have bit the dust, or else this little guy wouldn't be with us, Satuji informed in a rhyme. He won't survive long without his mother, for they are the ones who protect them like no other. His rhyming was getting annoying. But it seemed that the fox kid's parents had died. Apparently, foxes were known to be good parents. They taught their children how to hunt and survive in their early years. For one to be alone and hurt, it meant that they had to be gone. And without those skills from his parent, he wouldn't survive out here in the forest. He made up his mind. What if I made him my familiar? He asked. After some thought, the familiar master replied. Kitsune are extremely loyal, and if trained can be powerful. If you're able to help him, your life certainly won't be as dull. He was pretty sure that was an insult, but he didn't care at the moment. Looking at the small kid, he asked, What do you say, boy? Do you want to become my familiar? It took the question seriously. It eyed him like a worthy opponent, judging his skills, his resolve, and his will. It was like the fox could stare into his soul with its crimson-slitted eyes. It was checking if he fit his standards. Even when it was hurt, it was smart enough to consider its options. That just made him want it more. Limping up to his crouched position, it nodded its head. That's great. He had gotten his familiar. He picked it up. It was a little heavy for his 8-year-old body, but it was nothing he couldn't handle. Do you have a name? He asked the young kid. It just shook its head in the negative. He gave it some thought. How about Kurama? He asked the fox. It yipped in satisfaction. I think Kurama is an adequate name, Graphia confirmed. What do you think, Rias? He said. Rias? Looking around, he couldn't see her anywhere. That wasn't good. Graphia flew up into the air to find her young charge better. She had left her other charge with the familiar master. Naruto would be safe with him there. She can't believe she had been so foolish to lose one of the children she had been tasked to protect. Stretching out her senses did little to help her in this situation. There were just too many magical animals and plants for her to get an accurate read on what was around her. The other magical presences just drowned out Rias' own when hers was passively being released. If she were to channel her magic and release it, it might be enough to find her. Come on, Oju-sama, give me some help, she hoped. She just wished Rias would be safe when she found her. And then she could kill her. A few minutes ago. The forest was a little scary. Okay, it was a lot scary. But she was a devil, a big, scary, powerful, high-class devil that could steal someone's soul. Okay, she couldn't do that. But with her power of destruction, she could obliterate something at the molecular level. She just didn't have enough control of it yet. But once she grew up and did have enough control, she would show Naruto Baka who's boss, and then she would go up to him and... She blushed a little at where those thoughts were going. When Naruto admitted defeat against her power of destruction, then she could do what she wanted to do with him after. What was she thinking about again? Oh yeah, she was a devil. And high-class devils do not get scared by spooky forests. She heard a rustling up in the trees. She looked up. She didn't see a scary monster. She, however, saw a bat. A cute little red bat shaped like a ball with fur that matched her hair color. It was perfect for her. Looking back to see where Naruto and Graphia went, she saw she was the only one in the area. Had they run off while she wasn't paying attention? Okay, don't panic. Everything was going to be fine. All she had to do was stay here, and they would come and find her. Huff. Turning, she was face to face with a boar. Some type of oversized boar that was at least 3 times her size. It was brown, with a patch of red fur on its back and some black markings around its eyes. But the scary thing was its pale white eyes and 2 pearl-like tusks that looked just about sharp enough to skewer her. She did the only logical thing she could think of. She ran. She ran fast, faster than she thought she could run. She guessed the fear was a good motivator. She carefully avoided the large trees, but the creature was strong enough to topple them over. This is not a normal boar, she realized. She didn't know how long she ran, but she ended up in a clearing. Spotting a large rock, she knew it was her only chance. All right, I'll use that, she thought. She used all her devilish strength to jump at the top of the rock. Successfully managing to do it, she would come to realize that the action was in vain, as the large boar just rammed straight into the boulder. Losing her balance, she collapsed along with the boulder she was standing upon, injuring her leg in the process. She channeled her power of destruction, only to realize that with the combination of her injuries and her fear, she was unable to focus her magic enough to send out a blast at it. All she could do was watch as the boar turned around to charge back at her once more. The bat, that she had spotted before, charged at the boar in an attempt for it to stop. The The boar just swatted the small creature away as if it were a fly. The bat suffered the same fate that she soon will. Is this where I die? She asked herself. She could vaguely see a figure that jumped in front of her. It looked like Naruto. He took a look at his surroundings. How dare you do this to my friend? His voice was calm, but it was laced with a roaring fury. His eyes were murderous, glaring a constant hate that only the pain of a loved one could provide. No, don't. Run, Naruto. Run and don't die. She mentally screamed, but all that left her mouth was a terrified quiver. She had gotten not just herself, but her best friend killed. Naruto held out his right hand and a pale blue spinning ball of magic seemed to materialize on his palm. There was no hesitation, he just charged. Unfortunately, so did the boar. They clashed in the middle, Naruto sending the orb right into the beast's snout, narrowly avoiding its large ivory teeth. Rasengan, he muttered, a reference to the technique he was currently using. The spinning orb ground into its flesh, before it violently exploded, releasing the compressed energy that it had contained within it. A shower of blood shot out, but it wasn't her friend's. The beast, too injured from its clash, collapsed onto the now red-stained ground. Her friend's clothes were stained with blood. He was standing victoriously. He turned around. She saw something. His eyes were blood-red, with two tomos spinning around the small blackened pupil. They were also laced with so much hate within them. It didn't suit him at all. She much preferred her fun-loving goofy friend to this. Why your eyes? She said in surprise. Naruto, realizing what she said, took out a knife. The knife was strange, as it was three-pronged with a set of strange writing appearing on the handle. In the reflection he saw something surprising. Sharingan, he muttered, referencing the Digitsu he now possessed. At first he didn't know what was happening. Once he saw Rias hurt, and about to be killed, he saw red. He had never been able to perform a perfect Rasengan before, but with the Sharingan, he proved himself wrong. Worrying about this later, his eyes returned to their normal sapphire blue. Rias, are you alright? He asked, as he walked over to the fallen girl. That broke her out of her shock. The weight of what she had just been through struck her like a school bus. She collapsed right onto her best friend and cried, uncaring of the blood that now covered them both. She just clutched her friend tight, afraid that he would disappear at any moment. The near-death experience taking a toll on her mental abilities. All the while he had caressed her back gently, showing that he was here. He didn't know how long they had been there. How did you find me? She asked. Her voice was muffled as her head was currently in his shoulder. I had a friend, he said with a smile. She now saw what he was referring to. It was a small, cute baby fox with a splint on his injured leg. Apparently the fox had some sort of ability to find people across far distances. Taking deep breaths, she ended the hug. But she still clutched onto his hand like a lifeline. Hi. What's your name? She said, letting the fox around its abnormally large ears. It yipped in satisfaction. Kurama, his name is Kurama, he answered for the kitsune. Rias pouted, which even while her face was covered in blood, was extremely cute. No fair, I wanted a cute one. I thought you already found one? He said, pointing above her head. What are you? She said before she spotted what he was referring to. It was the bat from earlier, still going strong even after the blow it took earlier. The bat was currently floating above her head. It's you! Reaching up to grab the creature, accidentally letting go of Naruto's hand. He just put his hand firmly around her waist. She loved it. Catching the bat within her grasp, I'm gonna name you Mocha, she said. Naruto chuckled. This was sweet, but the moment had been ended abruptly by one familiar master. Kid, you ran really fast. It totally left me a gasp. Looking over the area only to spot one thing. Holy shit, it's a demon boar. Forgetting to rhyme in his astonishment. Grafia flew right over them and called out, Rias. Naruto. Are you alright? Foregoing honorifics in her panic seeing them covered in blood. We're fine. Grafia. Grafia came flying in next to Zatuji, and she looked pissed. Zatuji. Enlighten me on what a demon boar is. Now. In a tone that left no nonsense. Ah well, Devil-san, a demon boar is a type of demonic boar that hunts devils for fun, he said. Now it was fear that made him forego his rhythm. And why? Pray tell, is that dangerous of a creature in the safest part of the forest? She asked, this time a little more forceful. Well, you see, it is really hard to tell which kinds of familiar are of the demon variety. Because they look exactly the same as normal familiars, and they only, show they are demonic by the fur around their eyes. And they only get those when they get to a certain level of power. Quite frankly, I'm surprised that they were able to kill one of them, although the boar looks to have been extremely young. Upon him seeing Graphia's murderous glare, he shut off his ramblings. Oh look! The two have their familiars. Let's go and get those ready for them, he said with an awkward chuckle. Naruto, staring at the scene, said to Kurama, Kurama, if he tries to put you in a thing called a poke ball, I give you full permission to eat him. The fox yipped in delight, then it showed a foxy grin. Present. Issei Hayato was not having a good day. He had woken up in his bed, that was the first red flag. Because if he remembered correctly, he had died. He had died after seeing Yuma's glorious boobs. But if he had died, how was he alive? But dying wasn't even the worst part. What was worse than dying, you might ask? Well, nobody remembered his girlfriend. Matsuda and Motohama, who he remembered showing Yuma to, had completely forgotten about her. What's worse is they called him a liar. Him. A liar! Even her contact information, which he had on his phone, had disappeared. The day got a little better, when he went over to Matsuda's house to read the treasured book, Ika Ika. But even after watching Double D's and the nerds who love them, he felt weird. And not the nice tingly weird he usually got, but it was more of a strange weird. He could see perfectly in the dark, and he started to hear things he shouldn't have heard. Like noises that were too far away to be possible. His body also felt lighter, he could jump higher, and he had more energy. But it just felt like his body was changing into something. What was another thing that made his day bad? Well, it could be the fact that he was being chased by one of those black-winged freaks. Black feathers rained from the sky. All he could think about was that it reminded him of how Yuma had left after she killed him. But no, it was someone else, someone a whole lot less sexy and a lot more terrifying. The man landed in front on him. A man with short black hair and blue eyes. His outfit consisted of a gray trench coat, with a white dress shirt. However, the scary thing was the two crow-like wings on his back. Such cowardice, I can't abide such lower-class beings, the man muttered. No! How can this be real? He asked in disbelief. He stuck his hand out. It appears as though your friends and master are nowhere to be found. You show no sign of disappearing or any circles being deployed. He moved his outstretched hand to his side. Therefore, I will assume you are astray, is that correct? A spear made entirely out of light appeared in his hand. It was similar to the one Yuma made, but hers was red and this guy's was blue. At the sight of it, he ran. And that would mean killing you won't be a problem, he shouted, as he moved his arm back into a throwing position. If I'm gonna die in a dream, I'd rather the killer be a hot chick than a dude. He thought, not cool. All his running was for naught, as the light spear pieces his backside, leaving him to fall on his knees and cough up blood. Man, this blows big time. This is the worst pain I've ever felt. It didn't hurt near this bad when Yuma murdered me in my last dream. Reaching for the spearhead that was poking through his front side, he was met with a searing hot pain like how he felt in his chest. The man, hearing his cries of pain, spoke, "It hurts, doesn't it? Light is a deadly poison to your kind, burns you from within. I thought I'd finish you off, but it seems you're quite the tough one." Raising his hand in the air, another spear of light formed within it. "Don't worry, I'll put you out of your misery shortly." Seeing him getting ready to throw again, he mentally screamed, "Someone help me, please." Ironically, his prayers had been answered, in the form of a blast of red and black power of destruction. The blast completely destroyed the fallen angel's spear of light within his hands. "What did you just do, you little shit?" A bright red light flowed in the distance. "And what the hell is that?" That glow was a magic circle, and with it appeared a beautiful red-haired woman he recognized. "Keep your hands off of him," she shouted. Red hair, did Rias come to save me? He asked himself. He then collapsed to the ground. A blue light spear materialized within the fallen angel's hand. "I'll teach you not to meddle where you don't belong," he shouted angrily as he threw the spear at the girl. The spear was knocked away, however, by her, Rook, who then stood right by her side. Forming a fourth spear, he yelled, "I'm done with you." Charging, he came face to face with a bolt of lightning, courtesy of her, queen. who revealed herself with a laugh and a spark of lightning in her palms. That hair, the crow realized. You're from the House of Gremory. My name is Rias Gremory, and who are you? Other than a fallen angel, she stated. Dusting himself off, the man spoke. Well, who knew? This town is currently under the control of the next head of the great Gremory family. So he is a member of your household, I take it. He was referring to the currently bleeding out half-devil on the ground. If you bring any harm to him, you will get no mercy from me, she said with confidence. The angel adjusted his hat. I apologize for the misunderstanding, though it is unwise to let your servants run loose like this. Next time he is out for a stroll, he might run into someone less cordial than myself. I appreciate the friendly advice. Bear in mind, if anything happens like this again, I will make you regret that you crossed paths with the House of Gremory, my friend, she warned. No offense to you, noble household, but you should bear in mind that the same thing can be said to you. Unfurling his wings, he announced, My name is Danasik. I pray that you and I never again cross paths. And with that he disappeared, releasing the barrier he had put up earlier to keep her, pawn, within the area. That was a close call. I can't believe he ran into a fallen one, Akino said with a hiss. If we don't do something, he will die, Kaneko stated. That won't happen, she said. She was about to volunteer herself to heal her pawn. It was then she noticed something, her necklace. The silver vial of liquid that he had given her. It was mocking her. Akino, she called to her, Queen, would you see to it that doesn't happen? Akino, slightly surprised, she responded, Fufu, I'll make sure of it. She licked her lips seductively. Who knows, we might even have some fun afterward. None of them noticed the slitted red eyes within the darkness. These eyes belonged to one Kitsune Kurama, and he had seen the entire thing. He was a devil. A devil. He wouldn't believe it, but then Akino-senpai had shown him her wings. He had also gotten a great look at her boobs. They were gigantic, so much so that he just wanted to squeeze those balloons until they popped. He had been too surprised to do so, on account that she said she were devils, and the fact that they both were naked. He had accidentally hit his head when he fell off his bed in surprise. For some reason, he thought Akino had liked it. He even got to help but on her bra. And she wore a thong. It was the best. He had freaked everyone out when he arrived with one of Koa's great ladies. Sure, she wasn't Rias Gremory, but she still was amazing. She told him that Rias would send over someone to fetch him later, and then she walked off. In class, that bastard, Yudo Kiba, had showed up and told him that Rias Gremory had sent him. When he got there, he saw Kaneko Tuju. The Kaneko Tuju, Koa's unofficial mascot. He got to see Akino-senpai again, and she was super nice. Totally freaked him out, and he could barely look her in the eye after seeing her knockers earlier. And it was then that Rias Gremory came into the room. And boy, was she beautiful, from her gorgeous hair to her giant to her pale skin. She was his dream girl. And she was standing right in front of him. Apparently the Occult Research Club was a front for other devils to conduct their business. That fallen angels were basically angels that have fallen because they have sinned. And that Yuma was also a fallen angel, and that she had been tasked to kill him. Then she had used some sort of ability to alter memories to make everyone forget she had ever existed. She explained that he was a part of a peerage, which allowed a strong devil to reincarnate others into devils who would have to serve them for their bidding, which meant many things. It meant he could get a harem. That was awesome. He also had wings, and as a devil he had put flyers with summoning circles that would allow people with strong desires to summon them. There they would complete a given task, and in return they would be compensated. Usually paid in a small amount of a person's life force that they would use to subtly gain power. Only to find out that he had so little power that he would not be able to teleport himself. He had to ride his bike to his client, and at first the client didn't believe him, so he had to beg to be let in. At first he was rude, but then the client ended up being super cool. He still didn't complete the contract though. And then he had gotten attacked by another fallen angel. He seemed to have the worst luck ever with them, at least this one was a girl. But then he had managed to activate his sacred gear, which according to Rias, were a gift from God he gave multiple humans so they could defend themselves from supernatural creatures. His sacred gear looked like a large red gauntlet that covered his entire forearm with a giant green gem on his hand. It also had yellow spikes on the sides and 2 red spikes at the top. With it he was able to fend off the fallen angel and blast her away with lasers he had been able to create. Rias had gotten angry with him because he fought the fallen angel alone. But what a day it had been. What am I supposed to do if she is still pissed off at me? Issei asked himself. Why am I an idiot? Oh, a girl cried. Looking over at the sound, he came face to face with a pair of white panties. With a perverted grin, he took full pleasure in looking at the girl who had fallen, revealing her glorious undergarments and camel toe. Oh no, it looks like I fell down again. I'm such a klutz, she admonished herself. Helping herself to sit up, she revealed her face. She was a pretty young woman about his age. Her long golden hair flowed down her back, split bangs over her forehead, and a single strand stuck out upward from the top and sloped backwards. She looked to be wearing a nun's outfit, which consisted of a dark teal nun outfit with light blue accents, a white veil over her head with light blue accents, a brown satchel slung on her right hip, and brown boots with black straps in an X-shaped pattern. She also wore a silver cross necklace around her neck. She was both very cute and beautiful, plus she had an aura of innocence that surrounded her. She smiled at him. You must never go near the church again, Issei, Rias admonished him. Why? He asked, surprised. For devils like us, the church is enemy territory. Simply setting foot inside would cause major problems for both angels and devils. Surely you could sense that something was telling you to be careful, she explained. Oh, that's what it was, he said as he recalled the weird feeling he got after going near the church. When I went near the church, I thought I felt a chill and my left hand tensed up. She turned to him. That was your devil instincts telling you danger was near. Being in close proximity to someone from the church is a very risky proposition. Also, what's even more dangerous is that some of the exorcists affiliated with the church also use sacred gears. They could really hurt you. He remembered Asia and her sacred gear that allowed her to heal a boy who had fallen and hurt himself. Asia's sacred gear was a pair of rings that allowed her to heal people instantly. Just know if a devil receives a devil purge, it's utterly annihilated. Nil, end of the line, they can feel nothing. They are gone forever, you can never come back from that. Do you understand? Her eyes spoke of total seriousness. Looking away, he felt guilty. I got it. I'm sorry. I've gotten too worked up. I want you to be more careful, that's all. She turned and walked away. He hadn't expected this when he had helped a nun find her way to her house. And she had been the nicest girl he had ever met. He needed to get back to class. Lunchtime was about to be over soon. He had missed the first part of school escorting Asia. He had decided to eat his lunch in the old school building. There he was met with an angry Rias. He had told her where he was, and she had admonished him. She had likely been worried about him not being present at school. He felt like an ass. After a few minutes of walking, he still hadn't felt better. He had made Rias angry at him again, and what's worse was he couldn't see Asia again. Even when she had been nice and invited him to come to her home again. Splash. Turning the corner, he was met with a searing hot pain on his left hand. It wasn't as painful as when he had been stabbed in the chest, or the second time he had been stabbed by the light spear as a devil. But his hand still hurt like hell. I'm so sorry, the offending person said. Turning, he was face to face with who he was pretty sure was that new pretty boy he had heard about. Black spiky hair, blue eyes, and orange shirt. Yeah, it was definitely him. This was Naruto Namikaze. He was holding what looked to be an instant ramen cup with steaming hot water in it. Looking back at his left hand, he could see that some of the contents of that cup had spilled onto his hand, and that included the steaming water that had previously been in it, leaving his hand with first-degree burns. How had this guy been eating it? And why was he eating now? It was almost the end of the lunch period. What the hell, man? He voiced his displeasure. Why the hell is this so hot? And why the hell are you eating right now? Naruto just sheepishly rubbed the back of his head. Well, you see, I was still a little hungry, so I made my 6th cup for lunch. 6th? He repeated in disbelief. Yes, 6th, I know it's a pretty small meal. I've been trying to cut back a little. He laughed. Who the hell eats that much ramen? He asked in disbelief. Naruto gave him a deadly glare. Hey man, don't diss the ramen. It's the food of the gods. This guy clearly wasn't right in the head. I'm sure, he agreed. Naruto then turned his head and scratched his cheek. Look man, I really am sorry for burning your hand. Do you need me to take you to the nurse's office? He thought about it. He really wished Asia was here. she would be able to heal him no problem with her kick-ass sacred gear. But she wasn't, and he wasn't allowed to go to the church to get her. Aquino or even Rias might also be able to heal him, they had healed him before. But he didn't want to trouble them. After all, he had already caused such a big hassle already. Sighing, all right, fine. After a few minutes of walking, the bell had rung and the halls had been a little crowded. Naruto had led him to where they were going as he didn't know where the nurse's office was. They had been met by a door. Naruto had knocked on it, and they heard the standard come in, to let them know they could enter. Inside was a tan-skinned man in his early 20s. He had long silver hair that he styled into a ponytail, with his silver bangs splitting off to each side of his face and black eyes. He wore circular-shaped glasses and standard scrubs that most nurses wore. His just so happened to have the Ko logo on them. He was rather unassuming, and that is probably why he had never noticed the guy before. The rest of the room was just like any other nurse's office. A couple chairs, some corny posters, a place to lie down on, cabinets, a sink and a desk and stool for the nurse to sit on. "Ah, what can I do for you two?" he asked, turning to them. "Well, you see, we kinda bumped into each other, and some of my food spilled over and burned his hand," Naruto admitted. "Well, that's no good," he said, now noticing his hand that he was clutching in pain. It had lessened, but not by much. "Why don't you?" he said, fishing for a name. Naruto Namikaze," he stated. "And I'm Issei Hayato," he introduced himself. The nurse raised an eyebrow but didn't make any comment. "Well, Naruto-kun, my name is Kabuto Yakushi, the nurse here at Ko Academy." He gave out his name. "Now, as I was saying, why don't you head back to class while I take care of young Issei-kun's burns? Class just started, so that means you haven't missed much of anything yet." "I guess you're right," Naruto conceded. As he walked over to the door and reached for the handle, the door opened. In it stepped in what looked to be a college student. He had light brown hair that framed his face, black eyebrows and black eyes. Like Kabuto, he was rather unassuming. Hello," he said, noticing that there were others inside the office. "Ah, Rinji. What seems to be the problem?" the nurse asked. Just then, the now named Rinji clutched his stomach. "You see, I have this stomach ache and I thought going to the nurse would be a good idea." "I see." He took on a thoughtful expression. "Why don't you come in and sit down in that chair over there and let young Naruto-kun out the door?" he said, pointing at a nearby chair. "I'll see to you once I'm done helping Issei-kun with his burns." He did as asked. With Naruto's exit, Rinji had sat down patiently. Kabuto dragged him near the sink. "Here, use this to cool your burn off." He twisted the knob that allowed the sink to release cool water. Putting his hand in it, he felt instant relief. After a few minutes, Kabuto took his hand and applied a cream onto his burn. Finally, he wrapped his burn in a bandage. "All right, all done," the doctor stated. "Really, thanks. You're the best," he said in gratitude. It wasn't instant healing magic, but he did feel better. "Really, it was nothing. It's always good to help people in need." Kabuto had a small smile on his face. "I hear ya," he agreed. "All right, you're free to go," he said as he patted his back. "But remember to keep that burn out of the sun for a while. Oh, and here is some cream that you apply 2 to 3 times a day on the burns." He handed him some cream, which he took. "All right, thanks Kabuto-sensei," he said as he walked off, leaving the other two alone in the room. "It's always good to help people in need," Rinji repeated. "Quiet you," Kabuto stated. He then got up and activated the silencing seals he had placed in the room. The seals were usually invisible until activated, but once activated they muffle all sound within the room. Taking off his glasses, he cleaned them. "You know, despite what you might think, I am an actual doctor." Rinji snorted. "Yeah, and did you take up a Hippocratic oath too?" he asked rhetorically. "You know I don't understand why we are at this school in the first place." "I told you, we are here to draw out the ghost," Kabuto answered, still cleaning his glasses. Yeah, we are here to wait for the ghost to appear so we can get revenge on him for killing Lord Orochimaru." "I know, just let me know when he gets here so I can kill him," he said confidently. Finally done cleaning his glasses, Kabuto put them on. "On the contrary, he is already here," he said, pushing up his glasses a bit. "What? Then why haven't we attacked him yet?" he yelled in disbelief. "Currently the ghost knows we are here but not our identities. He is waiting for us to strike," Kabuto informed. And when are we going to strike? He asked. There is too much going on in this town. For now we wait for the crows to finish up their business, and then we strike. Kabuto answered. All right, fine. Just let me know when it's time for us to get our revenge. He stormed out, leaving the doctor alone. Soon we will see who wins, the fox or the snake. He chuckled darkly. Let me try one more time. If I say don't, you don't. You have to forget about Asia. You are a member of the Gremory family. You have to be careful now. She yelled angrily. After he had visited the nurse's office, Rias had almost immediately found out, and healed his hand fully. Then they had gone out, and fought what was called a stray devil, which were reincarnated devils who had abandoned or killed their masters. Many of which lost control of their abilities, and that allowed their bodies to mutate, and their intelligence to drop significantly. The one he had met with the rest of Rias's peerage had been a pretty sight. That was until he had seen the bottom of her. It was the ugliest thing he had ever seen. She had a giant toothy mouth where her stomach should be. Her body looked like an ugly centaur with its humanoid-like hands for legs. And she had a piranha-like face at the end of the fight. Oh, and she shot acid out of her boobs. Boobs were sacred, and she had tarnished them. While he was there, he had learned the roles of a peerage, with a peerage being a lot like chess. Having the roles of a king, a queen, a rook, a knight, a bishop. Each having kick-ass powers. However, he found out he had been given the rank of pawn. The worst piece. Then next, Rias Bucho had asked him to help Kaneko with one of her requests. Arriving at the building, he found it covered in something blood, and it was everywhere. It resembled a murder scene because that likely was what it was. There he found a priest. A priest who looked so insane he could be a Batman villain. He had killed the client because he had contacted a devil, and because of it, in his words, he gave up being human. Then he shot him with his holy bullets, which Herta had tried to fend him off with his kick-ass sacred gear, but to no avail. It was then that Asia had showed up inside the house, and she looked horrified at the scene. She had tried to protest what they were doing, but he didn't listen. The bastard even went as far as molesting her. It was then that Rias had appeared with her peerage. With them here, he knew that they could beat the one insane priest. But the priest had been smart enough to call for backup. He called the fallen angels. They had to retreat after that. Sadly, they left Asia. Rias had said that the spell had only worked on peerage members, and since she wasn't a member of her peerage, she wouldn't be able to be transported. He didn't want to leave her with that bastard. But she insisted, and he had been shot and was bleeding out. Then Rias ordered Aquino to heal him again. He was devastated after that. He had left Asia with the insane priest. But he had been so happy when he saw Asia again at a park. He even took her to go and try a hamburger, and she looked so cute while eating it. Then they went to the arcade and he won her a stuffed animal in the claw machine. It was great. She told him about her time in the church, and the fact that she had grown up in an orphanage, but then after she discovered her sacred gear she had been forced to become a holy maiden. But becoming a nun had been very lonely for her. But that all changed when she came across a devil who had been badly hurt. Without thinking, she had healed it. However, those bastards at higher ups at the church didn't like that, and they had excommunicated her. With nowhere to go, she came across the fallen angels. After that, he had proclaimed himself as her first friend. But that tender moment had been ruined by that bitch. Yuma, or the now named Rainier, had taken Asia back with her. He had tried to stop her, but with his measly twice critical he could do nothing to defend himself and Asia. He was weak, he was powerless, and he couldn't save Asia. He had tried to tell Rias, pleaded with her to help him save Asia. That is what landed him in this position. Fine, then maybe it is time you release me from your household, because I refuse to just let her go, he told her. I'm sorry, but I can't do that, she stated. Of course not, I'm your precious pawn, can't do without your most important piece, can you? He mocked. That's enough, say, she yelled, startling him. Pawns are important, they are not the weakest piece in the game by any means. Do you remember when I told you my evil pieces have the same attributes as their chess characters? Yeah, but so what? What would a stupid pawn do? He asked. In the chess game, quite a bit. If a pawn advances deep enough into enemy territory, it can be promoted to any other piece besides the king, she informed. So does that mean I can have all the same powers as everyone else? He realized. Yes, but only if the master declares the place enemy territory. Say, for example, the Fallen One's church. She stepped forward. Now let's talk about your sacred gear. Oh yeah, it doubles my powers, is that right? Yuma said, the fallen angel told me. He corrected when realized he accidentally said the fake name Rainier had used. Just feel, she caressed his cheek like how a mother would a child. Any sacred gear works in direct correlation to the current feelings of its owner. Though to put it another way, the stronger those feelings are, the more powerful the sacred gear can be. I didn't know, that's cool, he admitted. She stepped back, Akino whispering something in her ear. Something has come up, Akino, and I have to step out for a moment. Wait a minute, I have more questions for you. She ignored him. Remember, even if you're promoted, no matter your rank, a single devil cannot stand up to a fallen one. And with that she materialized a magic circle and vanished in a sparkle of red light. I guess we'll have to see about that, won't we? He muttered to himself. You're going? Kiba had asked him. Kiba was a handsome young man his age, with short blonde hair, blue eyes, and a mole underneath his left eye. He also wore the standard Ku attire. Yup, there's no point in trying to stop me, he told them. You're going to get killed, he stated. Well, I can deal with that as long as I can get her out of there, Issei said in confidence. That's very brave, very stupid too. This is suicide, he warned. It's none of your business, he shouted angrily. He heard the sound of a sword rustling. I'm coming with you. Kiba now had a sword strapped to his belt. What? He asked in confusion. Weren't you listening? Kiba asked. The president basically said that if you get into that church you're promoted. But she also said you wouldn't be able to do it on your own. Yeah? He asked, not following at all. So we're gonna back you up, and there's no way in hell we're gonna let you go without us, so you might as well save your breath, dude, Kiba stated. Kaneko too? He asked. There's nothing else going on, was her short reply. It had all turned out all wrong. After showing up at the church, they had been ambushed by that insane priest named Fried Selzen. After defeating him with teamwork, he had retreated. Then Kaneko found an underground tunnel that led to a large room. In the room was Asia. Asia had been crucified. It was there he saw her Rainier. Rainier had ripped out Asia's twilight healing right out of her. He had taken her limp form and ran. Fried had come back with more priests to fight against, and they had stopped Kaneko and Kiba from following. He laid Asia onto the church pew, her left exposed to the world. Hang in there, come on. Once we get out of here you're free, stay with me. You have to fight, he told her. She lifted her hand up and he grasped it with his own. That's it. Stay strong. I know it wasn't a long time, but I'm so blessed to have made a friend like you. She spoke weakly. Tears welled up in his eyes. Stop, it isn't over, okay? We're gonna be friends for a lot longer than this, you hear me? When you feel better we'll go to karaoke, or I'll teach you how to bowl, or you can't give up, damn it. She was crying too. You'll be letting my buddies down too, you know. You still have to meet them. I know they'll love you. I know they may come off as a couple of pervs, but I swear they are actually great guys once you warm up to them. And you will. Man, are we gonna have a story to tell them after this? We'll all need a crazy night soon, huh? Where should we go, you think? I wish it could be different. It would have been great to have grown up in this country and gone to your school, she said. You still can, the school will be a lot more fun with you there, he promised, but the tears flowing freely down his face contradicted this. She put her hand on his cheek. I never wanted to make you cry, oh Issei. I'm sorry, goodbye. And her eyes closed as her hand fell limp at her side. Silence. Why? Why does she have to be the one to die? She's a healer, she could have helped people. If her gift is just to heal those in need, then doesn't that mean you have a purpose for her? It makes no sense. Damn you. He wailed, Asia didn't do anything to deserve this. Please give her back, please. All she wanted to do was make friends. She had one in me and would have made so many more. Is this my fault? Are you punishing her because she made friends with the devil? I'm sorry, okay, just give her back. A demon asking for forgiveness in a church. Rainier interrupted. What an insidious sense of humor. There she was, sitting right next to him and the person she murdered. What are you doing here? She pointed to cuts she had received on her arm. Ugh, how tacky is this? Some knight did it to me on the way up here. Where are Kiba and Kaneko? He questioned. She activated Twilight Healing, its green glow lighting up the room as her wound was healed. Wonderful, huh? No matter the injury, I heal instantly. A perfect gift for those of us who no longer have the benefit of divine protection, wouldn't you say? She mocked. She clasped her hands in a praying fashion, and now I'll never risk losing my rank in the underworld. O great Azazel and Shemhazai! I'm prepared and ready to do your works. She prayed. What does that matter? What does that have to do with Asia? She wasn't a threat, she didn't care about power. He screamed. Rainier stood up from the pew. Unfortunately for those with the sacred gear, this is their destiny. That is such bullshit. She never wanted to use it, she just wanted to live in peace. He yelled. Out of the question. Why? Humans don't have the ability to survive in their world with the sacred gear. Even if they choose to use their power for good, they are seen as different, and would be tortured out of fear. He remembered about Asia's story and how she had been excommunicated from the church. Have you ever heard of anything more absurd? That's just how humans operate. Ha, such an unfortunate waste of power. That wouldn't have happened. He refused. I was her friend and I could have protected her from all that. I wouldn't have let anyone have hurt her, ever. She's dead. Rainier reminded, stone cold dead, and you're whining about protecting her. You realize how psychotic you sound. You wouldn't have been able to save her back then anyway, and you can't save her now. Will you shut up? I'll never forgive you for this. I'll never forgive myself. Why couldn't it have been you? He shouted. Any sacred gear works in direct correlation to the current feelings of its owner. That was what Rias said. I want her back. He yelled in rage. To put it another way, the stronger those feelings are, the more powerful the sacred gear can be. I want Asia back. Dragon boost. He screamed in rage as red and green energy surrounded him and his sacred gear. He charged at her. She used her wings to fly away and dodge his strike. You don't pay attention, do you? There is nothing you can do to win even if you tripled the power you have. Only rage-filled screams left his mouth. She dodged another strike, and you're still trying to test me. This time she hurled a pair of light spears, each striking through a leg. He tried to rip them out. Light is toxic to devils, just touching it scorches your bodies. It said it's the most intense, worst pain a devil can endure, so what do you think, is it true? She asked. Even through the pain he ripped the spears right out of his legs, a similar pain engulfing his hands. What do I care if it is? This is nothing. Nothing compared to what Asia went through. I'll put up with anything for her. He yelled. You know, I really am impressed, a lower-class devil making it this far. That power is something to be reckoned with, she admitted. He fell onto his ass. What's happening? He questioned. Not that it's gonna do you any good though, she continued. I just wanted to make sure you got your kudos for doing so much better than expected for a devil from your class. His breathing became ragged. That's it. God isn't gonna help me. I'm a demon now. What was I thinking? I need to call Satan. Looking up, tears welling within his eyes. I'm a devil now too, so what do you say? Just this once I need a little help. What are you mumbling about over there? Is all the pain driving you mad? She taunted. Using all his strength to stand, his sacred gear glowing within the darkness. I'm begging you, I won't ask for anything else after this. What's he doing? Rainier asked. Turn this around or manifesting his wings, let me destroy her ass. He shouted. How are you able to stand? This is impossible, that light should be burning you from the inside out. Tell me how you're doing that, you don't have the power to temper light. You are nothing, Rainier yelled. He slowly walked over to her, his legs wobbling all the way. Don't get me wrong, it doesn't tickle. Even with this strength I feel like I'm about to pass out. But I don't care. I'll fight through it if it means I can take you down. Oh. His sacred gear changed. It became more draconic, with claws and even more spikes. Releasing the energy Rainier could only realize, that energy wave is at least second level. His sacred gear shouldn't be anywhere near this strong. It's just a twice critical. Stepping forward, each step causing him even more pain. In fear she threw even more spears of light at him, each one missing their mark. She tried to fly away but he caught her hand. You won't get away, bitch, he yelled. No! I have the supreme power, she yelled back in fear. Cranking his hand back he threw a punch. This one's for Asia. He struck her, and sent her body crashing through the nearby glass window. That felt good, he admitted. He landed and Kiba was right beside him. Kiba slung his arm over his shoulder. Haha, look at you handling that on your own. Yes, what held you up? He asked. I was instructed to stay back. Rias's orders, sorry. Kiba admitted. Seriously? He asked in disbelief. Seriously, she called out, now standing in the church. I believe in you, I knew you would defeat her. You did? He asked in disbelief. Once my business was finished, I found my way to the basement of the church and arrived just in time to see Kiba and Kaneko having a free-for-all with a bevy of fallen angels. She stated. I don't know that we wouldn't have gotten out without you, Kiba admitted. Man, I'm sorry I missed it, Issei stated. Kaneko entered the church, dragging a defeated Rainier. Someone order this? Kaneko asked. You must be Rainier, lovely entrance. I am Rias Gremory, also known as the next head of the House of Gremory. She introduced herself. Gremory. Rainier repeated, you got to be kidding. It's wonderful to meet you, what a shame we don't have time to chat. But sadly she dropped some black crow feathers onto the ground. It's time to meet your friends I disposed of earlier. They were rather rude to me. So you killed them? Issei asked in disbelief. Ria's fuse is long, but when pushed she lives up to her title of the Empress of Annihilation, Kiba informed. Damn, didn't know I was part of such a hardcore group. Issei stated, neat. Why would the heiress of Gremory dare such a thing? Rainier questioned. She answered, well, since you asked, I discovered multiple fallen angels had plans to attack this town. Normally I would have stayed out of it, but they seemed insistent on targeting my team. So you did it to defend me? Issei asked. She turned to him. Look at you, I didn't see your sacred gear. He showed his new gauntlet. Yeah, I don't know what happened, it just freaked out and turned red. It's called a Red Dragon Emperor, which explains a lot actually. She turned back to the downed angel. Do you see this, Rainier? You weren't defeated merely by a twice critical sacred gear after all. No need to feel too embarrassed. What? She asked. The one Issei uses automatically doubles its wielder's power every 10 seconds, allowing him to transcend both God and Satan at will. It's one of the 13 varieties of Longinus. The strongest level of the Red Dragon Emperor is called Boosted Gear. So this sacred tool and the ability to destroy God is in the hands of a child, Rainier thought. The one downfall is that it requires a decent amount of time to start into its immense power. The only reason he was able to beat you was because you let your guard down. If only you had learned the lesson earlier, she admonished. Issei, please. Her voice was pitched higher like Yuma's had been. I'm sorry, I know I said some mean things to you, but I didn't have a choice. I had to fulfill my role as a fallen angel. Yuma. He muttered in disbelief. I mean, would I still be wearing your gift? She asked. It was the scrunchie he had given her on his date. Please don't tell me you forgot. You bought it for me, don't you remember? She pressed harder. Go away. Why do you still have that thing? He questioned out. How could I possibly get rid of this? It reminds me of you. She pushed. Kaneko, you ready? Kiba asked, she noted. They both tried to walk up to them, but Rias had just outstretched her hand, signaling for them to stop. You wouldn't hurt me, would you, Issei? Rainier asked. Shut up. He managed to mutter out. I don't buy it. Rias, please, I can't do this. He turned around. Channeling red magic within her palms, she stated. You've toyed with my servant's emotions for the last time, begone. She then blasted her with a bolt of power of destruction, leaving nothing but black feathers. Kneeling next to Asia's cold, dead body, all he could feel was regret. Tears cascaded down his face. I'm sorry, you all came to help me. I've fought as hard as I could and still I've failed. She's gone. Asia, please forgive me, Issei stated. You have nothing to apologize for. This world is still new to you. Nobody here is placing blame, least of all Asia, Rias stated. But he was interrupted. A glowing light could be seen above them. It was an orb, with silver rings inside silver rings that he recognized. It was twilight healing. These are beautiful. Shall we return them? Rias asked, reaching for the sacred gear. Snatch. A small figure grabbed the rings out of the air. Sorry to interrupt the mood, but I'll be taking these. A voice echoed throughout the room. Just then a hooded figure entered through the door. The figure wore a maroon-colored cloak with a hood designed to resemble a serpent's head, with white, red, and yellow markings that resemble eyes. Who are you? Rias questioned, her magic flaring within her palms. Me? The figure questioned. The voice was male. He then lifted his head up, and even though the hood still covered half his face, he had recognized him instantly. Silver hair, tan skin and round glasses, this was Kabuto Yakushi. Kabuto-sensei? Issei said in surprise. Issei, how do you know this man? Rias questioned, not taking her eyes off the figure for a second. He's the nurse at Ko Academy. I met him when I burned my hand the other day, Issei answered. Kabuto merely pushed his glasses upwards, and laughed. Haha, merely one of my many covers I've taken over the years. A white snake slithered next to him. In his mouth were the 2 rings of twilight healing. Whoever you are, I demand you return those rings to me, Rias shouted, emphasizing her point by flaring her own power of destruction. All right, he smirked, but what was that about not letting your guard down? He repeated. Crack. Just then, several white snakes erupted from the floor. Rias was the first to get bitten, them choosing to go for the most obvious threat. Kaneko had been much the same. Kiba had been fast enough to jump away and deploy his wings. No! You bastard! Issei yelled. Just then he had been bitten as well. Those who had been bitten immediately collapsed to the ground. What is this? Rias questioned as she fell. Oh, this? Kabuto answered, it's just a little thing I whipped up to help deal with supernatural creatures like yourself. Don't worry, the paralysis is only temporary, he informed, referring to the snake's venom they had been subjected to. She felt her eyes get heavy, and soon lost consciousness. But you might go to sleep for a while, he continued. Now to deal with that pesky knight of yours, he mocked, and your queen, he stated, as he dodged a thunderbolt that nearly struck him from behind. Akino, who had seen the figure enter the church from outside, was suddenly bitten by another snake sprouting from the soil, leaving her paralyzed on the ground. Kiba charged at the man with blinding speeds with his blade. But Kabuto seemed to move faster, easily dodging the knight. Kabuto's hand seemed to glow blue, using his chakra scalpel to cut straight into the blonde. Kiba collapsed not long after. All of this happening within seconds, leaving Kabuto the only person conscious. It's your move, Ghost, he said with a smirk, looking straight into the distance at a pair of slitted blood-red eyes. Unknown location. Kurama appeared out of the shadows. The snake has revealed himself, the kitsune stated. Naruto Uzumaki smirked, a smirk which the fox mirrored. All right, you stay here. I should be able to handle this just fine on my own. The fox's grin fell. What, why? Naruto activated his Sharingan, its 3 tomo converging. His eyes turned black, with a red 6-pointed star in the center, with a 6-sided pentagram-like structure inside of it, with a black dot in the middle. This was his Mangekyo Sharingan, the next level of the Sharingan bloodline. Kamui, he muttered the technique's name. It was then that his right eye spun and he was engulfed in a black spiral, leaving the fox alone, his question unanswered. He always does that. Kurama sighed. Blearily, she opened her blue-green eyes. She was chained up, attached to the same crucifix that Asia Argento suffered upon minutes before. The rest of her peerage tied up next to her on the floor, with snakes that constricted them acted as rope to time them up. Ah, you're starting to wake up, a voice sounded. I suppose your pure-blood devil genes helped alleviate the venom a little. There was Kabuto, standing right next to her chained form, with his maroon cloak covering half his face. She tried to channel her magic to break free, but it didn't work for some reason. It's no use, Kabuto informed her. The venom I injected you with suppresses your magic for a little bit. Why are you doing this? She questioned. If he was after the twilight healing he would have left by now. Why? He repeated, merely to draw someone out. You're after my brother? She answered. It made sense, kidnapping her and her peerage would be a surefire way to get her brother's wrath. The Lucifer? He smirked. Oh no, we are after someone who is far more dangerous. Who? She questioned. There weren't many people stronger than her brother. He should be arriving soon, he answered cryptically. And when he does, we'll kill him, another voice called out in the room. Scanning her surroundings, she saw 5 other unknown occupants in the large room. One was Rinji, not that she knew. The second was a pale, pasty-looking short man, with white hair. He wore a black cloak with orange lining and black goggles with red lenses on his face. The third was a man with medium-length dull purple hair and gray eyes, wearing a similar cloak as his short accomplice. However, the most notable thing was a gas mask he wore which covered the lower half of his face. The next was a slender, somewhat feminine man. He wore a full-body light blue skin suit, leaving only his face uncovered. He wore dark green lipstick, his eyes were wide open all the time and had some pink hair sticking out of the top of his skin suit. The last was a beast of a man, with large muscles and a tall build. He had short slick combed back brown hair, no eyebrows, and gray-colored eyes. He also has sharp teeth and long arms reaching down to his knees. "Yeah! For Lord Orochimaru!" another man shouted. "Lord Orochimaru?" she questioned, not recognizing the name. "Lord Orochimaru is our former master," Kabuto informed, although he was tragically killed not too long ago. "Bastards! So this is about revenge," a voice shouted. Kabuto turned and saw where the voice came from. Oh, the Red Dragon Emperor has finally awoken. It was Issei, and he was now conscious. "I honestly had expected you to be one of the last ones to wake up. I mean, I even had to patch up your wounds just so you didn't bleed out on the floor." He then pulled out a small blood bag from his cloak. "I hope you don't mind, but I took some as a souvenir." Kabuto pulled out several more blood bags. "All of you know it is a rare occasion that you get DNA of a pure blood devil with Gremry and Bale blood, a fallen angel half-breed devil, a Nekasha and the Red Dragon Emperor. It must be my lucky day," he mocked. It was then that the other members in her peerage began to wake up. Just in time for everything to begin. Kabuto then turned toward the door at the edge of the room. It was sealed shut. "He's here," Kabuto announced. The building shook violently. But there was a silence, it was almost peaceful. This was the calm before the storm. Step, 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 footsteps could be heard, echoing from outside. They continued. Step, step, step. They stopped. Silence. The door had been engulfed by flames. A black fire that burned the door to ashes, and in stepped a shadowed figure, his red eyes gleaming in the darkness. He stepped forward. Step, step, step. The figure was shown. His face was covered, instead he had a white kitsune mask. He wore a dark blue-gray robe with gray lining and a fur collar, with the back having a 3-tomo surrounding a pupil design. He wore fingerless opera-length black gloves wrapped in studded red-brown leather straps, baggy black pants, and red-brown sandals. "Ah, it seems you've finally arrived to the party," Kabuto greeted. "Ghost?" Issei repeated. "You shouldn't be here." The figure spoke. His voice was muffled. It was a combination of calm and cold that sent chills down all their spines. "Yes, well, I got, how do you say, lost on the road of life," Kabuto mocked. "Now let's get the fun started." As he said that, black markings began to appear across the other's skin like a wildfire. The markings originating from a 3-tomo mark on each of their shoulders. The figure narrowed his eyes in hate, although you really couldn't tell because of his mask. "Oh, you recognize this?" Kabuto mocked. "I heard you have had a long history with these types of curse marks. This seal acts as a power amplifier through the use of the sage arts." Kaneko flinched at that statement. "Each seal drastically increases a user's energy levels and physical capabilities," Kabuto informed. "Ha! And with this we'll finally be able to take you down," the largest among them mocked. The figure said no word, he just stepped forward into the middle of the room. Step, step, step. However, this may have been the wrong move, as the 5 amplified henchmen had surrounded him on all sides. "Ghost! Just give up!" the masked one shouted. "You are surrounded," said the shortest of the group. The ghost made no outward change, his hands limply at his sides. The large one seemed to have lost his patience, and charged at the figure. "Yaha!" he yelled as he pulled his large hands back to throw a punch. The ghost dodged with the barest of movements, and thrusted his hands straight into the man's chest. The man's chest began to shower blood everywhere, as he had collapsed to the floor lifelessly. However, the constant rain never seemed to stain his clothes. "Gozu!" Rinji screamed. "What?" Rias thought. "Impossible!" Kaneko mentally screamed. "This thing is on a whole other level," Issei realized. The other henchmen were shaking at seeing one of their comrades being murdered so easily. Kabuto, however, just smirked. "All I'm surrounded by is fear. And dead men," the ghost retorted. All I'm surrounded by is fear. And dead men. The thing stood there, perfectly still, as if it hadn't killed someone just now. What's more, its clothes were perfectly dry, even when the shower of blood looked like it had completely washed over it. Bastard! The smallest of the group shouted. He then pointed his arms at the masked figure, showing that he had some type of device strapped to his wrists. It looked to be a wrist-mounted rocket launcher of some kind. It then fired a multitude of small objects at the ghost, their explosion nearly blinding the occupants in the room and causing the building to shake. Smoke filling the area of detonation. That ought to have taken him out, the short man said confidently. Keikiho, the masked one, pointed at the smoke screen. As the smoke cleared, it revealed the ghost, no worse for wear. His clothing was in perfect condition, as if he hadn't been hit at all, almost like a... What? How'd you do that? The now named Kiho questioned angrily. He then pointed his wrist launchers at the figure again. Ready to launch another volley, Kiho was stopped by Shinji, who raised his arm. Wait! He ordered Kiho. He then faced the masked one of the group. Kurigiri, do it! To which the now named Kurigiri nodded. Just then a black smoke began to be released from Kurigiri's cloak. Its black smoke screen filling up a large portion of the room. Nurari! Shinji shouted. The skin-suit-wearing clown nodded. He charged into the smoke screen, while Shinji summoned several groups of bats that flew into the smoke at their targets. While Kiho not long after fired a missile into the smoke. Inside the smoke, the ghost dodged Nurari's fist that had been sent at him from behind. He then noticed several figures in front of him. Each one looked like an identical copy of the masked one named Kurigiri. It seemed that he had some ability to create tangible clones within the smoke. He sent a kick at one of the clones, with it successfully landing. From the sheer force of the blow, the clone was sent backwards, knocking into the other clones next to it. Nurari tried to hit him from the back again, however this time he grabbed his wrist. However, the skin suit-wearing man seemed to have a mucus-like substance that surrounded his body, joining their limbs together, when he touched him. Using Amaterasu, he summoned his black flames. He was able to successfully burn the substance off his hand, along with Nurari in the process. He threw the burning Nurari at a group of bats. The bats sticking to the man, just as his limb had been forced earlier in the fight. And later they were engulfed by the flames as they flew outside the smoke. Jumping up, narrowly as another group of bats was set to hit him. The bats, however, instead of hitting him, they hit another set of Kurigiri's clones. Grabbing the missile out of the air, he spun around and launched it back at the opposing direction. He really is something, Kabuto stated, with a hint of admiration in his voice. Watching the carnage ensue, he could tell each step was heavily planned out. Nurari had apparently been set aflame, him flying out of the smoke directly onto Kurigiri. The black flames engulfing them both as their screams echoed throughout the room. The ghost having simultaneously taken out two opponents and disabling the smoke screen. Without Kurigiri to maintain the technique, it started to dissipate. A missile came flying out of the smoke, the explosion catching both Rinji and Kiho within the edge of the blast radius. The smoke dissipated, the masked figure was standing still. No scuffs on his clothing and no worse for wear. Fast Kaneko thought, wondered at the display. Especially as each of them had used the cursed power of the sage arts. Who or what is he? Rias questioned, both marveled and slightly terrified at the little display of power. Her other peerage members agreed with her thoughts. Oh, him? Kabuto asked. Smirking, he answered. I wouldn't want to ruin the surprise, now would I? After all, things are just now getting interesting. A swarm of bats flew straight at the figure. However, a kunai appeared from his sleeve, throwing the object at Shinji like a bullet. Much faster than the bats flying, could vaguely see a faint blue outline around the blade as it cleanly cut through the bat user's head like butter. The summons disappeared without their summoner being among the living anymore. Kiho shook in fear at the display of power of the masked figure, him being on his back from the explosion earlier. He crawled backwards in fear as the masked figure stepped closer toward him. St, stop. I give up. Just let me go, I didn't want to do this. His ramblings ended as the masked figure shoved his foot directly into Kiho's head. Him suffering a similar fate as Gozu as his blood splattered everywhere. Step, step, step. He walked toward them again. Kabuto clapped his hands at the display, the rings of twilight healing on each of his middle fingers. Wonderful. Just wonderful. Kabuto commented on the display. Honestly, that strength is one of the things I admire about you. Silence. Ah, yes, I really do admire you after all the pain you went through in your life, Kabuto stated, the masked man stopping at the remark. Oh, ready to listen now? He mocked, however a kunai was sent directly at Kabuto's face. Kabuto activated his chakra scalpels as his hands started to glow blue as he cut straight through the kunai. However, the silver ring, when exposed to the powerful lacerating energy, had cracked. Oh no! Look at what you made me do, he said, inspecting the cracks on the ring. An evil smirk erected itself onto his face. He channeled more of his energy into both of his hands, the powerful ring straining under the pressure. Shatter. The divine rings breaking under the pressure, as the twilight healing of Asia Argento was no more. No! Issei screamed in rage, those were Asia's, damn it. And you broke them. Again with the interruptions. Kabuto sighed. The snakes that wrapped around her peerage members constricted them even more. Ack. Issei moaned in pain, the rest of her peerage did as well. Akino, however, seemed to moan in pleasure. The snakes then wrapped themselves around their mouths. Stop this right now! Rias demanded, not happy with her peerage's suffering. Kabuto turned towards her. The ghost stepped forward. You're in no position to be demanding anything, Kabuto stated. A white snake slithered up to Rias's hanging position, its fangs ready to bite her at any moment. This stopped the masked figure's movement. Turning back to the masked figure. Now that all of the interruptions are taken care of. Where was I? He took on a thoughtful expression. As I was saying, after Lord Orochimaru died, I lost sense of my identity again of who I was. I never knew my parents or homeland. The enemy took me into their custody when I was very little. I was used as a spy since I was a child, moving around from country to country, faction to faction. For a long time the idea of homeland was alien to me. Until I became Lord Orochimaru's disciple, and now, it's gone again. The pain of not knowing who I am or being without an identity. You understand it well, don't you? He asked. Silence. Who are you really? Are you yourself or Indra's ghost? I know you have lost everything, and with what Lord Orochimaru put you through, you must have questioned your identity. Who you were meant to be. He turned his head to the left. But you had faith in your strength, and told yourself that you truly are yourself. You forged your own identity, in doing so you overcame everything. That's why you're confident, and you have no doubts at all about your identity, and why you found friends who accept you so readily. But my story is different. He pulled his hood down. Instead of reaching beyond Lord Orochimaru, I stubbornly kept clinging on tightly to his power. He took off his glasses. Now I have an idea about what you must have felt about yourself. You made me see, and so I decided I would be like you. That's why my path is clear to me. He turned his head, revealing the left side of his face. It was like an infection. His left side was white and scaly, like that of his snakes. Kabuto's eye became yellow with slitted pupils, around which were characteristic purple clan markings. I'm going to use what I've absorbed of Lord Orochimaru to become a better, stronger Kabuto Yakushi. Shock was evident on everyone's faces. I will find a new identity. And you've given me a clue as to how. That is why I'm so grateful towards you. Lord Orochimaru is a symbol of renewal. He will live inside me as a reminder of what I must overcome. That's right. I took a part of Orochimaru's corpse after you had defeated him. And then I simply grafted that piece right onto my own body. He showed his left arm, which had a similar pale color and scale texture to it. And since then, you won't believe the life force it's given me. Every day I can feel it steadily consuming my entire body. It's amazing. It's unbelievable. I have to fight desperately, just to avoid being completely subsumed by it. Every day I feel my will to surpass Lord Orochimaru reaffirmed to me. He shouted. You are a fool. The masked figure spoke. Kabuto sighed as he put back on his glasses. Maybe, but if you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid. He bit his thumb. He then raised his hand in front of him. But even so, I'm not foolish enough to face you just yet, Kabuto shouted, as he lowered his hand. The ghost rushed toward his direction as he shouted, summoning Jutsu. The church was completely destroyed. In its wake was a giant three-headed snake. Kabuto was nowhere to be seen. Off to the side of the wreckage, a black spiral appeared out of thin air. Out stepped the masked figure that had been in the church seconds before. Observing his surroundings, he spotted the giant snake. Holding out his hand, his right eye spun, a black swirling orb seemed to materialize within his palm. Its black orb seemed to grow larger, gaining 4 white curved blades on each of its sides. He pulled his hand back, and threw the large mass of magic. Inferno style, Raisin Shuriken, he thought. The technique flying at its target like a bullet. It striking the snake and released a large explosion of the black flames of Amaterasu. Its 3 heads screamed in pain as it felt flames that burned at the same temperature as the surface of the sun. It collapsed to the ground not long after, dead, the masked figure staring at its lifeless form. His left eye spun, a black spiral appeared out of it. However, instead of sucking the figure in, it released the occupants from its pocket dimension, throwing the now freed Rias, Akino, Kaneko, Issei, and Kiba. "Oh wow!" Issei groaned from the rough landing. "Where are we?" he asked. Issei surveyed his surroundings, seeing the masked figure walking away from them all, his back turned. "Where's Asia?" he asked worriedly, not seeing the dead body of his friend. He heard footsteps in front of him and saw the masked figure holding her cold, dead body bridal style. Her body had severe burns and she was covered in dust, but he had recognized her instantly. It was then that Asia's death hit him. "Asia!" Issei cried, clutching onto her crisp body. The masked figure didn't say a word, turning as he walked off. "Wait!" Rias called. The masked figure stopped and turned his head, showing his blood-red eyes with 3 tomo. "Who are you?" she asked. He didn't answer, he only turned and walked forward as he disappeared within a black spiral. 1 week later. Ria-tan. Her brother's voice rang throughout the ORC building. "I was so worried when I found out what happened. Why didn't you tell me?" her brother questioned. Surzex is a handsome man who seems to be in his early 20s. He has shoulder-length crimson hair and blue eyes, which he inherited from her father Zeoticus, similar to her own. He wore an expensive-looking black suit with gold lining, matching pants, a white shirt and red tie. Honestly, he very much looked like a male version of herself. "Surzex-Anasama, I'm fine and there is no need to worry," she reassured. Surzex frowned. "Yeah, I know, but you were kidnapped. And if you didn't save yourself, you could have been hurt badly." That had been the story she had told Sona. That she and her peerage had been ambushed and briefly taken hostage. Then she had managed to free herself and her peerage. However, the assailant had fled and left behind a very dangerous toxin. It had to be sealed off with a barrier for the safety of the town. It had been the best thing she could think of to get her off her back. She had neglected to tell her friend about the masked individual, and she would continue to do so for the time being. At least until they received new information on him. Something about the man seemed familiar, and it was bugging her. Her queen, who was standing right beside her, interjected. "Yes. You're right, and the way that horrendous man had tied us up like that, I felt so dirty." Her words were contradictory to her actions. Akino was currently rubbing her thighs together with a heavy blush adorning her face. Ignoring Akino for the moment, she spoke, "But the point is that we're fine. So you can get back to your duties, and how did you get away from Grafia anyway?" Surzex rubbed the back of his head. "Oh, that, I kinda of teleported here when she wasn't looking," he said with a laugh. It was then that Issei walked into the room. An intense aura of depression seemed to radiate off of him. "Hey Bucho, are those weird black flames gone yet?" he asked, not paying attention to the occupants in the room. He walked over to the unoccupied couch and unceremoniously plopped himself face forward. "Black flames?" Surzex asked, his mind running a marathon at this new information. Thinking quickly, she told him, "The assailant used intense black flames that didn't seem to stop burning, and to answer your question, Issei, the black flames disappeared last night." "I see," he stated. However, she could see the cogs turning inside his head, though he pushed this information to the back of his mind for now. "Look, Rias," he told her, "the point isn't that you're fine. It's that we're worried you didn't tell us. Not just me, but mother and father as well. We all care about you and just want you to be safe." "If you cared about me, you wouldn't force me to marry him," she retorted with a hiss. Surzex had a regretful expression, but Rias continued, "Now if you excuse me, my peerage and I have somewhere to be." She got up from her desk and headed out the door with Akino following. She grabbed her, Pawn's arm, who seemed to have not been paying attention to their conversation at all. All the while, the Lucifer was thinking about the conversation that had just occurred. It had all been a blur. He could vaguely recall Akino giving the opening statement. She had worn a white and red traditional Miko outfit. He was so lost that he didn't even ogle her. Rias had really gone all out for him. He knew that she hadn't known Asia and her death likely didn't affect her that much. But she still had gotten Asia a large amount of white flowers, an extravagant white dress, and she even paid for an expensive-looking casket. But none of those things could bring her back. Asia Argento was dead. They had decided to bury her outside the destroyed church, it being a fitting place for her to be buried. They had just been waiting for those black flames to dissipate so they could host a funeral. He didn't know how long he stood there. Minutes? Hours? Days? He just stood there, staring at her grave. A grave he had caused, he failed to save her, and she had paid the price for it. He vaguely heard footsteps. Issei. A voice called out. He turned slightly. It was Rias. She wore a black dress, it looked nice on her, and she was holding an equally black umbrella. I think it's time to go inside, it's raining. Oh, so that was why his face was wet. He had just chalked up the moistness to him crying. Now that he paid attention, he could see that, yes, it was raining. A constant downpour of water from the dark, stormy clouds. No, I'm fine here, he stated, not minding the rain. Issei, you'll catch a cold, she told him, concerned about his well-being. Look, Rias, I think I'll stay out here for a bit, he told her. Rias frowned. Issei, I know what you're going through, But she was interrupted by her, Pawn. You don't know a damn thing about it, he screamed. He collapsed to his knees, right in front of Asia's. What would you know? You're just some dumb heiress who's lived in a castle her whole life, he asked. Rias had her head low, she clutched the vile necklace she had on with her hand. I had a friend, she spoke, he was the nicest, kindest and goofiest person you could ever meet, even if he was a devil, Rias told him. Her description reminded him of Asia, her golden hair, her kind demeanor, and her innocent outlook on life. He used to visit me every week and we would play, watch anime, or even just talk about our problems we had that day. Even when I was down, he always tried to make my day better. He was honestly probably the most important person I had at the time. And his family was like a second family to me. His mother used to be so doting and his father so laid back, much like my own parents. And with how they constantly teased me and him, it was always a good time around them. But then one fateful day when I was 10, my mother came into my room. She told me that they had died. That their entire compound had caught fire and their entire clan had perished. I know it seems ludicrous that a clan of powerful devils died in a common house fire, but that's what happened. We had their funeral. There were no bodies to bury. When devils die, they don't leave bodies. You just vanish, fade away, and then you're gone. She put her hand on his shoulder. So that's why I do know how you feel. Not being able to save someone you love from death. Believe me, if I could revive him I would, but I can't. Issei stood up, his head was low, his hair shadowing his eyes. And why can't you? He screamed. Rias took a step back in shock of his outburst. Why can't you revive Asia? If you could revive me, then you can revive her. Rias frowned. She reached into her pocket and took out what looked to be a chess piece, a bishop to be exact. Issei, do you know what this is? She asked him. It's a chess piece, so what? He said, irritated from the question. Close, but it's what we devils call an evil piece. This piece has the ability to convert living creatures into half-devils. She informed. Of course there are exceptions, one of those being, if a body is too damaged, the revival will not prove successful. Issei's mind was at work, one of the rare occasions it wasn't used to think about. So, his hand was clenched. If we hadn't been attacked, Asia would be here right now? Rias, noticing her pawn's hostility, tried to calm him down. Issei, she was a holy maiden, she's in heaven. She is happy in the eternal paradise. The life of a devil isn't for everyone. She was a nun, her sacred gear was destroyed. She wouldn't have been able to make it as a devil. She handed him the umbrella she had in her hands, not caring that she was being rained on, and she walked away. All the while, Issei was shaking in rage. Flashback 9 years ago. It had been a year since he had gotten his familiar with Rias. Currently he was on his way to the Phoenix mansion. The Phoenix were throwing some type of party, and he was forced to go by his parents. Lo and behold, their house just as grand as the other houses he had been to. Don't get him wrong, he too had a large house, but he always found the need for them to be non-existent. He just didn't see the point in showing strength through the wealth you had. Especially when that wealth was mostly inherited or gained through political means. But he was here, his forced to be here as he was of a Phoenix blood. His father had at one point belonged to the Phoenix clan. He had been a low-class side branch member that had quickly risen through the ranks during the Great War with his cunning intellect and strength. That was how he had met his mother. He had saved her from being captured. Not knowing she was the heiress of the Uzumaki clan at the time, they had continued to meet in secret and later fallen in love and gotten married shortly after the Great War ended, with Minato marrying into the Uzumaki clan. With his father previously being a member of the Phoenix clan, he had gained some of their skills. He didn't have the aptitude for fire magic, but he was excellent in wind magic according to his mother. He had also gained a regenerative ability as well, which had been super useful at times. He could also produce phoenix tears, however he didn't like producing them, so he tried to avoid it. From his mother's family he had gained a large amount of magic. That was something his clan was known for. He had also gained the clan's ability to awaken the Sharingan, which was a technique that members of his clan could awaken, where he was in the familiar forest. His clan mainly used it for things like seals, which were another thing their family was known for. Being ushered inside to the ballroom, his parents promptly left to talk with the other guests. This left him alone, so he had decided to go to where the other young devils were hanging out. Spotting someone he knew, he approached them. "Hello, Sona," he greeted. Sona Citri was a young bespectacled girl his age with black hair styled in a short bob cut and violet eyes. He had met Sona through Rias, the two having had a good friendship and rivalry with each other, at least according to Rias. "Greetings, Uzumaki-san," she greeted him back. "Oh, come on, Sona, we've known each other for years. I think you've earned the right to call me Naruto by now," he told her. She adjusted her glasses and said, "And as I've told you a multitude of times, I will refrain from calling you in such a personal fashion." He frowned, and was about to retort before he was interrupted. "Naruto-kun, you know no matter how many times you asked her, she won't abide by your wishes," a voice spoke. It was Rias. "After all, she's too uptight for things like that," she teased. "By uptight she means too refined for such lack of proper manners," Sona glared back. An arm hooked around his shoulder. He smiled because he knew who it belonged to. It was a handsome young man with black hair and violet eyes. He is very tall and has a muscular build due to the extreme training he has done. This was Rias's cousin, Sarorg Bale. He had met him shortly after word got out that he killed a demon boar. He was a pretty cool guy once you looked past the constant training he put himself through. "Oh, come on, Sona, learn to be less uptight sometimes," Sarorg told her. "I believe I am acting appropriately to our current setting," she retorted, gesturing that they were currently at a ball. "Perhaps a battle maniac like you might stand to learn to be more uptight in the future." Sarorg laughed. It was a pretty well-known thing that he was known as a battle maniac among the others. Speaking of battles, he spoke, turning to himself. "Want to come over for a spar sometime? I can tell you've gotten stronger since our last one," he asked him. He noted, "Sure, we can do it, Ween." He was interrupted by another voice. "Ha, him getting stronger. He's just a half-blood phoenix, from a middle-rate clan not even part of the 72 pillars," Riser insulted. Riser is a tall and handsome young man in his teens with short blonde hair and dark blue eyes. Riser was the third son of the Phoenix family, so it was obvious why he was here. He and the others had never liked him for his arrogant attitude and generally playboy wannabe attributes. Riser had an idealism that since he was a high-class phoenix with immense regenerative abilities that made him invincible. In accordance with this philosophy, Riser had always tried to put him down on account of his father originally being a low-class phoenix. Him being worse, as he, despite being a high-class devil, is only a half-blooded phoenix. "Hello, Riser, it's certainly distinctive that you are here right now," he greeted, holding back what he wanted to say. His mother wouldn't be pleased if he got into a fight, at least when he starts it. "As it should, Riser has honored you all with a glorious presence," he agreed, not taking the hint that it may not have been a compliment. "Don't you have any more women somewhere else to ogle at?" Sarorg asked. Riser turned to Sarorg and laughed. Well, if it isn't the destruction-less Bale." "If it isn't the immortal chicken," he retorted back. Riser scowled at him, but decided to change the subject. "Isn't it lovely that Riser's family decided to host such a grand party? Riser knows you must be delighted, seeing as how you rarely get to attend things like these, with you being denounced as heir and all." Sarorg stepped forward. "Not as lovely as when I'll smash your face in." "Riser would like to see you try, you faulty Bale," Riser goaded back. Rias stepped in to try to quell the impending argument. Boys, why don't we calm down for a little while? We wouldn't want to cause such a scene right now." "You are absolutely right," Riser agreed. You have always been a smart one. Riser can tell you will grow up to become a beautiful woman. He went to grab her hand. She tried to pull away, but he forced it back as he leant down to kiss it. He grit his teeth. He could tell that Riser was making Rias uncomfortable. Hey Riser, why don't you go and get Rias some wine? I can tell she's rather parched. He asked. Surprisingly, he had complied. He guessed Riser was trying to act chivalrous. Rias gave him a grateful look. She didn't like Riser that much. He offered her his hand. Why don't we get out of here before Riser comes back? He asked. She took a moment to think. She then took his hand and agreed to Naruto's proposal. As they left, Sarorg had one thing on his mind. They have totally forgotten we were here, haven't they? Pretty much, Sona stated. Want to get some wine? He asked. She shrugged. What is this place? Rias asked. Naruto had just taken her hand and teleported her somewhere whenever others weren't looking. This is one of the safe houses that my family has in place in case anything happens. It's just outside of a small town in the underworld named Konoha, backwater territory. So nobody really knows about this place, so nobody will know we're here. He told her. Come to think of it, this one was the place I was born, he said in thought. That piqued her interest, really? Yeah, this place is great. It's got a bunch of things, like 10 bedrooms, a living room, a library, a training area, and a bunch of other cool things. Come on, let me give you a tour, he told her. Naruto spent the next hour or so showing her around the estate. It was very large. Although the experience was fun, much funnier than the ball would have been. And over here is WH. As he turned the corner, he was face to face with something: his mother. His very pissed off mother. Naruto, what did I say about sneaking out of the parties we bring you to? She asked. To not get caught? He replied. Yes, she replied. Smack. He was promptly hit on the head. He guessed he might have gotten caught sneaking out. Ow, he whined as he rubbed his wound. What are you even doing here? His mother asked. Well, I am. He scratched his cheek. Rias was getting uncomfortable at the party, so I kinda took her here, he said. Kushina took this moment to think. Rias, can I speak with you for a second alone? She asked, adding the last part as an afterthought. Said girl was shrinking at the scary woman's gaze, but she nodded in affirmation. Kushina took Rias into the other room, while Naruto wondered if he was going to get punished or not. Somewhere outside of Konoha. Present, 1 week later. So that's what happened, he said, after he retold recent events, seemingly to no one. He was in his Naruto Namake's look, so black hair and pale skin, with orange pants and sandals. He wore a black uniform jacket with an orange zipper and buttons on the waist and sleeves. Upon further inspection, it could have been said that he was talking to a slab of rock, a headstone. Things have been different without you around, he told the grave. I know you're probably rolling in your grave right now. You always taught me to stay true to myself. I can't help but think about what Kabuto said. He was wrong. He looked up, gazing at the sky. Everyone has something that defines them as a person, that makes them who they are. It makes them them. But that thing that defines themselves on who they are, it isn't there for me. Ever since I saw them, I can't help but feel like I'm changing. That the thing that made me me doesn't exist anymore, or that it never has. When I was a kid, things were so simple. After I lost my parents, you were there to guide me. You were there to teach me how to fight, to guide me when I felt lost. You were like a grandfather to me. But now you're gone. Master, you were always so good at pushing me to live my life how I want to. Truth is, you should have pushed a little harder, he told the grave. You know, I still have nightmares about him. What I could have done better, how I could have done something different. And the dreams aren't just about him but everyone else too. What happens when I'm not there to protect them? I can't go through that again. Never again. He ran his hand through his hair. I still hate him, and not just Orochimaru, but the rest of them too. And I've tried so hard to forgive them, to move on with my life. But every time I think of them, I still feel a burning hatred within my core. Believe me, I've tried, from meditation with sensei to even getting help from an angel. He chuckled slightly. I know it's a bit ironic, but it's true. An angel helping a devil. What's worse is that devil is me, but it's true. But I still feel this intense hatred for them. I can't help but feel that something is coming. It might be time I start setting my plans in motion. The plans you and I spent working towards. A complete overhaul on the underworld system as a whole. To stop all the wounds the heads have inflicted. And that means that we start at the top, with the great king of the underworld first. He walked away, stepping away from the grave of his deceased master and grandfather figure. Sarutobi Hiruzen the headstone read. All the while a pair of red slitted eyes were watching him closely, its mind at work, thinking back to what he's just witnessed. Konoha's Uzumaki hideout. He opened the door. I'm home, he called out. Nobody answered. Currently everyone in his peerage was away. According to a report from Kurama, 3 of his peerage members would return any day now. Those being Shark, Owl and Rabbit. They had been exploring some of Orochimaru's other bases for him, gathering the information Orochimaru had on various organizations and people he had collected over the years. The door led him straight to the living room, which was equipped with a multitude of speakers, couches, a table and even a TV. This was where the majority of his peerage spent time when trying to relax. Some of them were rather lazy, he really had to push them to train. Especially Cat and Dog, who were probably the laziest of his peerage. While other peerage members did nothing but train, he was one of them, but it was mainly Queen these days. Heading to one of the bathrooms to take a quick shower. After a few minutes he came out of the bathroom wearing nothing but a white bathrobe with the Uzumaki spiral on the back. Quickly making his way to the kitchen he got himself a glass of ice water. Taking a sip, his stomach grumbled. Quickly heading to the kitchen he made himself a sandwich. After a couple minutes he headed back into the living room. Taking a bit as he opened the door he was race to race with one crimson-haired beauty and an equally beautiful Ravenet. How is she here? There should be a system in place to keep unauthorized people out, he mentally screamed. Silently freaking out he turned back and tried to make his way back into the kitchen. However, fate was no longer kind to him as right as he stepped forward. Creak. Slowly turning around he was face to face with Rias Gremory and Akino Himejima. He said the only thing that could come to his mind. Hey, he greeted. Ah. 8 years ago. The room was dark, only lit up by the shimmering moonlight. A false moon for a false sky. Something the underworld put up in the last few centuries, to help the rising amounts of devil/human half-bloods adjust to their new life. They were in the underworld, specifically at the Gremory mansion, in Rias's room. Rias was currently naked, he wasn't. She had said something about her not being able to sleep with her clothes on, a trait she had inherited from her mother apparently. He hoped she grew out of it when she grew older. He was currently asleep, or was supposed to be. He was currently in that stage where you were asleep but you also weren't, and in between, like when you had just woken up, or were trying to sleep but couldn't. A shadow crept into the building, a darkness that brought nothing but death and destruction. It snuck through the halls, already knowing its destination. Gliding past the guards it was unseen, a testament to the shadow's skill. It made its way to their current room, silently opening the door, which was the only accessible way to get in the room. The large windows couldn't be opened, and if they were it may alert the guards patrolling the area outside. The occupants were none the wiser as it readied its blade, ready to strike its target. Wake up. A voice called out. He didn't know who it belonged to. The voice sounded familiar, like he knew the person his whole life, but he just couldn't remember who it was. Wake up, the voice repeated. The shadow raised its arm up, ready to strike. To eliminate its target, and flee the scene, leaving everyone none the wiser. It lowered its blade, intending to pierce clearly through the target's throat, a clean cut. The target didn't need to suffer, they were only a kid after all. Wake up, the voice shouted. Squelch. Rias awoke to a frightening sight. It was Naruto. He had his back facing her, and a man, an assassin, had made its way this far into the compound. That had been a first. Naruto stabbed the assassin through the chest, with a 3-pronged knife. She didn't know where he had gotten it. The assassin was in a position ready to stab the previous position of where Naruto had been. But Naruto got to him first, weaving his way out of his strike as he stabbed the shadow in the chest. He turned toward her for only an instant, so quick she hadn't even registered it at the time. His eyes were red, but that wasn't just it, he had 3 tomo marks in his eyes. Naruto had told her that his clan's ability allowed them to change their eyes to the color red and have 2 tomo encircle the pupil. He hadn't mentioned anything about 3, why? His eyes were glaring at the assassin with hate, just like in the forest, and just like then, that look didn't suit him at all. Flash. And just like that, with a bright yellow flash, another man appeared in their room. It looked to be an older version of Naruto. He wore a white coat with red flames on the bottom, a green flak jacket over a blue shirt, and blue pants. This was Naruto's father, Minato Uzumaki. He had never seen him so angry before. The assassin made the best move it could in its situation. It pulled the knife out its chest, so Minato couldn't follow, and applied pressure to the wound lest he bleed out. It then ran straight to the window. It didn't stop, breaking through the glass in the process. Minato had two choices: go after the assassin and apprehend him, or check on the two children to see if they were all right, and hope the guards could catch the assassin as he left. He was a father now, not a warrior anymore. He knew what choice he'd make. As he went to check back on the kids, he saw something had changed. His child's eyes were a blood red with 3 tomo. This was bad. He wasn't supposed to manifest 3 unless. He needed to talk to his son, now. Not bad. The disembodied voice said. He had barely registered it though, because he collapsed into a deep sleep. The awakening was too much for his young body. He fell into unconsciousness. Unknown location. A few hours after the assassination attempt. Are you certain? A voice spoke. The figure just nodded. It was the assassin from earlier. A blast of red and black magic engulfed the assassin, leaving nothing in its wake. Not even ashes were left, for they were destroyed as well. If the Indra is alive, this changes everything. The figure spoke, actually worried. He then took out a small paper. It was a business card of some kind, with a summoning circle. On the back of the card was a red cloud. Present day, few hours ago. Rias awoke in the middle of the night, frantic about something. She had just had a dream about that fateful night so long ago. It happened about a month before the Uzumaki clan had all perished. She had repressed the memory, not wanting to remember it, but with recent events she had guessed they had resurfaced. And if they were true, it changed everything. A few hours later, Rias was at her desk in the ORC building, staring attentively at books. She had her glasses on which, being a devil, did nothing to improve her eyesight. She said they helped her focus. But she suspected Rias just like them. That was the scene that Akino Himejima walked in on. Upon further examination, the books were about devils, specifically a devil clan. An Uzumaki clan? She hadn't recalled hearing about a clan with that name before. She knew that the clan wasn't a part of the 72 pillars. Were they an extra clan? Their clan symbol seemed to be a red spiral. It was easy enough to remember. 222. Rias muttered to herself as she kept flipping the pages of a book. It seems her, King, had been so focused on her reading that she didn't see her enter the room. She pushed the book onto the table and sighed. It was so unlike her usual attitude. Rias? She called out, getting her King. Oh. Akino, I didn't see you there, she said, finally noticing her Queen. Akino approached her desk. I could tell you were so focused. What were you reading? Upon further observation, she saw the picture of an eye, with a blood-red iris, a small black pupil and 2 tomos surrounding the pupil. It's about the ghost, she stated. And what about him? She asked with a frown, remembering that particular incident wasn't pleasant. Kiba had not stopped training. Kaneko had been in her own little world. Those people reminded her of her sister, with them using the sage arts. Issei had been the worst. They had tried to drag him off to train, but he had quickly given up. After Asia had died, he hadn't been the same. It was unsettling, but she didn't blame him. She too had lost someone important to her in her life. Rias pointed to the book, at the eye with 2 tomo encircling a black pupil. Do you recognize this? She asked. Akino hummed and thought. I can't say I have. She told her. It was true, she hadn't seen anything like this. Rias then pulled out another piece of paper, this time with a sketch on it. What about this? Rias asked, as she handed her the paper. It was a similar design to the last picture, only instead of 2 tomo encircling the pupil, it was 3. It did look familiar. She racked her brain trying to come up with an answer, and then it hit her. Those were the ghost eyes, she stated. Rias nods. This is the Sharingan, an eye technique unique to those of the Uzumaki clan's bloodline, she said, pointing at the book with the previous picture. A Dujutsu that allows the user to have increased perception, so much so that you can almost predict the future. A perfect memory for memorizing attacks. And the ability to see magic and other in conjunction allows the user to replicate certain spells and techniques, she explained. It sounds like a deadly ability. Akino stated. Rias noted yes it does. Do you think this ghost is part of this Uzumaki clan? Akino asked, noticing where this was going. Rias shook her head sadly. The Uzumaki clan all died out 8 years ago. Besides, as far as I can tell, all these book mentioned is a Sharingan with 2 tomo. As far as I know, only one person I know had a Sharingan with 3 tomo. Rias said sadly. Who? Akino asked. That single question caused a wave of sadness to emanate from Rias. It was so unlike her, King. She was usually so strong-willed and confident. Rias clutched her vile necklace. Akino frowned. That necklace was one of the taboo things to talk about in their friendship. Don't get her wrong, they were like sisters, but they each had subjects they didn't want to bring up. She had her fallen angel heritage. Rias had that. This day she still didn't know the significance of the necklace. But she guessed it was pretty important to her. She seemed to have a love-hate relationship with the object. She had caught Rias trying to throw out the thing multiple times, but each time she would always go back for it. Akino, Rias said softly, do you think there is a chance that Naruto Uzumaki is alive? Who? Flashback 9 years ago. Rias, can I speak with you for a second alone? Kushina asked, adding the last part as an afterthought. Said girl was shrinking at the scary woman's gaze, but she nodded in affirmation. Kushina took Rias into the other room, and as they left, Naruto was wondering if he was going to get punished or not. Lady Uzumaki? Rias asked. Kushina was just dragging her through the hideout. She didn't know where the older lady was leading her. Come now, Rias, I thought I told you to call me Aunt Kushina, or would you rather call me Ka-san? She asked slightly teasingly. Rias was red in the face at what Naruto's mother was implying. No, I think Oba-san is just fine, she told her, trying to gain back some of her composure. Kushina just laughed. They reached a room. It was a standard room, with a desk and bookshelves for working. But what really took her breath away was the large window that showed her what was outside. Wow, she said in awe. This building seemed to be atop a mountain, and you could see the entire village outside. Sure, it wasn't as large as some of the other cities she had seen in the underworld. But the way the sunset looked across the sky, with the way its light was cast over the trees, and the small buildings that were of a Japanese style. Budding was the people that were what had her, with the way they all talked to one another, as if they all knew each other. Like they were one big family. It was peaceful. Yup, Kushina said in agreement, every time I see it, it just gets to me, you know. But that's not what I brought you here for, she told her. What did you bring me here for? Rias asked. Take a look around, she told her. Around the room, there were a large amount of kanji on the walls. She walked up to them, touching one with her finger. What are these? She asked. They're seals, Kushina answered. She took her finger off. A specialty of the Uzumaki clan. They used to do all sorts of things, like for example, security for the whole building. Looking at them, they looked complicated. She didn't understand any of them. How do you know what they all mean? Rias asked. Well, we practice, she told her, but between you and me, it helps to have these, Kushina said, gesturing to her eyes. They were a blood red, with 2 tomo, just like Naruto's had been. Your eyes, they're just like. Rias trailed off. Like Naruto's, Kushina answered. She nodded. I'm surprised Naruto hadn't told you. It's called the Sharingan deer. A dijutsu unique to those of the Uzumaki bloodline. It helps a lot to see magic and remember stuff, she told her. Kushina trailed the kanji with her finger, until she stopped at a group of kanji that went in a circle at the corner of the room. Here, channel your magic into this, she told her. She did as instructed. She felt a pull on her magic, and the kanji glowed a bright red. What did it do? Rias asked. It just allowed the house to recognize your magic, allowing you to enter whenever you want, she informed. Why? She asked. Why? Kushina repeated. So you can go here with Naruto whenever you want. Kushina leaned forward, a teasing smirk adorning her face. Don't think I haven't seen those looks you're giving my son. Rias blushed, and tried to regain her composure. I don't know what you're talking about, she told her. Kushina still had that smirk on her face. Oh really? Well, judging by the way you look at him, I'd say you have a bit of a crush on him. Rias blushed even more, but doubled down. I still don't know what you're talking about. Kushina frowned. Well, that's too bad, she smirked again. I was hoping when you get older, you can come here to chat. She teased. Rias knew what she was talking about. Even though they were kids, they were also devils. They had been educated on all sorts of things, including sex and alcohol. Kushina laughed. I'm just teasing, now let's get back to Naruto. I still need to punish him. Konoha, Uzumaki hideout. Present, a few minutes ago. So let me get this straight. Your childhood friend, who's been thought dead for years, might actually be alive. And we're going to this hideout, which nobody knows about, to see if we can find a clue that he's alive, and that you're not just crazy? Akino asked. That about summarizes up our situation, Rias stated. All right, was her short reply. She was hoping she was right, she didn't know what she would do if she were. But the other alternative was that someone had stolen Naruto's eyes. She vaguely recalled one of Naruto's bodyguards who only had a single Sharingan eye. Apparently he had gained it through some type of eye transplant. But that thought made her blood boil. Just the thought that someone had stolen Naruto's eyes, and were using them for whatever means they wanted, bothered her a lot. There it is, she said in remembrance. It was the same building, the same hilltop, overlooking the same village she had seen when Naruto took her here all those years ago. She hadn't gotten a good look at it before, but seeing it now, it was all so beautiful. She felt a bit of the emotions overtook her. That's why she brought Akino, for emotional support. It wouldn't do for these old emotions to overtake her at the moment, not when she was so. Rushing up to the door, she put her hand out and channeled some magic into the door. It was silent. Wow, she sighed in nostalgia. The door led her straight to the living room, which was equipped with a multitude of speakers, couches, a table, and even a TV. I remember that, she stated. In front of her was a coat on a mannequin. A coat she had seen Naruto's father wear on that fateful night they had almost been assassinated. A white short-sleeved haori with red flames at the bottom. Searching the room, she spotted something. A glass of water. Akino, come here and look at this, she called out. What is it? What did you find? She asked a little bit too fast. Akino was now wearing Minato's haori. She ignored it for now. Look, she told her, this glass has ice cubes in it. Yes, that's what happens when water gets cold, Akino teased. A figure could be seen entering the room behind them. No, what I'm saying is the figure behind them was Naruto, in his bathrobe. Don't you think it's a little odd that the ice hasn't melted yet? Naruto was behind them, freaking out. One of life's great mysteries, Akino told her. Naruto turned, and was about to walk away when... Creak. Slowly, turning around, Rias and Akino were face to face with a bathrobe-clad blonde, with spiky hair, blue eyes and whisker marks. Hey! He greeted. Oh! They screamed. Present. But you're dead. Rias spoke in shock. Are you a ghost? Akino asked, grabbing his jaw as she moved it around in her hand. Naruto! She called out, not believing this to be true. Hey to Tomato-chan. He greeted through Akino's movements. He swatted her hand away. There had better be a really good explanation through this, Rias yelled out through gritted teeth. Naruto thought about it, pausing to come up with the right words to say. Look, Rias, he sighed. I know you deserve a good explanation for everything, but I can't just give you one right now. I'm sorry, he apologized. Rias's head was low, her hair shadowed her eyes. That's it, she yelled. Her eyes were red. After 8 years. 8 long. All you have to say is, I am sorry, she shouted. She blasted her power of destruction at him. He dodged, the blast destroying the door and wall behind him. My door, he called out. She blasted him again, destroying more of the wall and a television set. And again as he dodged strike after, Akino even joined in, shooting lightning of her own. Each shot seemed to miss him and do more damage to the room. She got tired until she just walked up to him and punched him in the face. It didn't seem to do any damage, but she didn't care. Again and again, blow after blow, she kept hitting him, all her pain over the years mixed into every punch. Until she finally collapsed from her emotions, right onto his chest. I thought you were dead, she cried out softly. He felt a wetness in his chest. Rias, he clutched her, his heart broke. Being away for so long took a toll on him. For a moment, they were in each other's embrace, just like it had been, so long ago. It wasn't to last, he pushed her away. He steeled his heart, he knew why he had stayed away from her. To protect her. He didn't know if he was strong enough to protect her now, when he had failed so many times protecting others. Rias, I can't do this, he told her. The look of hurt and betrayal she gave him. It was like a blow to his chest, right to his heart, but he continued on. The boy you knew, the boy who gave you that necklace. He died so long ago. He spoke. But Rias tried to interject, but she was cut off. You deserve better than what's left, he told her. Don't tell me what I deserve, she hissed out. Rias, he hissed back, sighing. He said, I want you to leave. What? She asked, her tears were now flowing. She didn't know how she wanted this reunion to end up, but it wasn't like this. You heard me, I want you to leave, to go back to Ku and live your life, to be happy, and forget about me, he told her. She wanted to argue, to plead with him to stay, to get an explanation out of him, but if this Naruto were just as stubborn as the old one, it was a fruitless effort. Akino was baffled at the display. This Rias didn't act like the heiress to a powerful devil clan, the smart, confident, stubborn king she had served for 7 years. This Rias was broken and hurt. And she could only stare at the person who caused this in hate. She readied her magic, activating a magic circle, ready to fry him to dust, because he hurt her best friend, her sister, in all but blood. Akino, we're leaving, Rias ordered softly, her head low. She just looked so defeated. Rias and Akino left, Akino throwing his father's coat on the ground. It hurt him, but he had to do it. He knew it was the right choice. Sometimes, the hardest choices require the strongest of wills. Kurama sighed. He had been hiding in the rafters, a place he usually slept, watching everything unfold. Everything went exactly as he expected, a testament to how well he knew his master and best friend. Naruto, you can't keep pushing people away, the fox told him, but he was too far away to hear it. Hopping down, Naruto not noticing him, he used his tail to grab something on the table. Kurama held out a couple of black cards, with a 3-tomo pattern on the back. Fine, I'll do it myself, he thought. Naruto stood there, deep in thought. He didn't know how long it had been since Rias had left. But he hadn't moved since, he was just standing at the center of the rubble. 3 people entered the house. We're home, a male's voice called out. The first was a lean-built 17-year-old man of average height. He had straight white hair with a light blue tint to it, almond-shaped purple eyes, and strange shark-like teeth. He wore a purple, sleeveless shirt with blue pants, sandals, and a belt around his waist with water bottles attached to it. Additionally, a mask, split down the middle with white and blue in colors, with markings that looked similar to shark-like teeth painted where the mouth was, strapped to his belt. He also wore another belt strapped to his chest, which he uses to carry his weapon, Kubikuribocho, which translated to decapitating carving knife. It was a large broadsword, as tall as a full-grown man, shaped like a butcher knife. The blade itself has 2 cutouts, a circle close to the top and a semicircular one nearer to the handle, the former of which is aptly fitting the sword's purpose of decapitation. This was Suigetsu Hozuki, his rook, code name, Shark, on account of the mask he was designated with. I told you to be quiet, Hozuki. Another voice hissed out. This time it was a female's. It was Ao, his knight, also known as Hanabi Hyuga. She was an extremely beautiful 16-year-old woman, with dark brown hair, styled in short bangs in the front reaching her chin to frame her face, while the rest of her hair she kept in a ponytail in the back, with a single strand running along her face. She wore a yellow kimono top, which did nothing to his her curves, a red kimono dress and a white obi tied at the front, and brown sandals. Currently she had her porcelain mask sealed away, but hers was a white and gold owl-like design. Suigetsu surveyed the room, noticing the current occupant and the room's destruction. Naruto! What the fuck happened to my TV? He shouted. Hanabi palmed her face, clearly having spent too long of a time with her water demon colleague. Naruto-sama, are you alright? His other knight asked, noticing her king was deep in thought. Much like his other female peerage member, was extremely beautiful with her long black hair tied in a bun in the back with 2 strands framing her face, pale skin and large, dark brown eyes, and a slender frame. She wore a white and teal kimono top, with a brown obi and brown kimono dress. She had brown and teal sandals and a white cloth with saban needles holding up her bun. She had a porcelain mask that only covered the top half of her face. That was different from the others' masks. Hers had two rabbit-like ears that poked out the top, with real markings around the eyes. Hakiyuki, his other knight and code name, Rabbit. Her voice seemed to break her master out of his thoughts. Huh? Oh yeah, I'm fine. Why do you ask? Bastard. What did you do to my TV? Suigetsu yelled, pointing his overly large blade at his king. TV? Naruto asked, with a tilt to his head, uncaring of the large blade that was pointed at his face. Naruto then seemed to notice the destruction around him. Oh, I slipped, Naruto stated, as if it answered everything. You slipped? Suigetsu repeated. Oh, like I'm about to do right now. He charged at his master. His charge was stopped by his knight, who used a well-placed juken strike on Suigetsu's arm. The limb subsequently went limp, dropping the large sword in the process. Right, you slipped, Hanabi repeated, not buying his lie for a second. Aha, Naruto nodded, doubling down on his lie. Anyways, Naruto changed the subject. Do you have the information I requested? Naruto asked, his voice getting more serious. Of course, Naruto-sama, Haku said. She pulled out a sealing scroll, tossing it to him. He caught it, all the information Orochimaru had collected over the years. Hanabi informed him of the contents. Naruto nodded. Wonderful, I trust it wasn't too much trouble for you three? Suigetsu laughed, ha, as if a couple of that snake's goons could pose a threat to us. He bragged. Says the weakest in the group? Hanabi teased. What did you say, you blind bitch? Suigetsu yelled back. Oh, nothing, it's just that without all that water you're pretty useless. Hanabi taunted back. This went on for several more minutes, until Haku finally had enough. Grabbing onto each of their shoulders, she squeezed them tightly. Quiet, both of you, Haku ordered, gesturing toward their master, who's still looking in the scroll. However, he still seemed to be lost in thought about something. He rolled up the scroll and sealed it on his arm. All right, I'm going to go train, Naruto told his peerage. Hey, what about my TV? Suigetsu yelled out, hoping to get his second favorite pastime sorted out. He was answered when a roll of Rio was thrown at his face, it being tossed hard enough to cause his body to liquefy to protect itself. Go buy another one, I'll get this cleaned up later, Naruto ordered. TCH, Suigetsu was annoyed, but he complied. Naruto-sama, Haku was interrupted as Naruto used his space-time technique to transport himself to his pocket dimension, where he opted to train his more destructive techniques. He always does that. Haku sighed, Hanabi nodded. Something happened. Hanabi pointed out, Haku agreed, while Suigetsu went to town to get a new TV. What do you think happened? Hanabi asked. Haku had always been the one to understand Naruto the best. Haku gave it some thought. I don't know, she admitted. He hasn't acted like this since. She trailed off. Since? Hanabi asked, not following her senior's thoughts. Since the incident happened. Haku finished. Incident? She asked, as she frowned. She hated not being in the loop of things. It's none of your concern, she told her junior, but judging by the look Hanabi was giving her, she knew her fellow knight wouldn't relent unless she gave her more information. About a year or so before you joined us, a certain incident happened, affecting Naruto to most. That is all I can say, she told her, walking away, but not very far. What are you doing? Hanabi asked. I'm cleaning, was Haku's short reply, and she was using her magic to destroy the broken rubble. I thought Naruto-sama said that he would clean it up when he got back, Hanabi pointed out. I know, but he won't be back for a while, she told her. Hanabi shrugged at her senior knight and sat on the couch, which was slightly destroyed, waiting for Suigetsu to return with a new TV. Teleporting back to the ORC building, Rias had a dejected aura. Akino, on the other hand, was pissed. Some bastard had made her king cry. The one who took her in when her family had scorned her. Rias had been with her through thick and thin, and she was in pain. And that man, who claimed to care for her, had hurt her. He had abandoned her, just like how he had abandoned her. Akino? Can you give me a moment alone? Rias asked. Rias Akino pleaded, but she was cut off. Please, I want to be alone right now, she told her queen. All right, Akino gripped her friend's hand, but just know I'm here for you, she told her. Rias nodded. As her queen left, Rias decided to take the most comfortable option and laid down on the couch. She didn't know how to feel right now. She had just found out her childhood friend, the one she thought was dead for years, was alive and well. That thought made her happy. But now, Naruto Uzumaki is different, changed. Even if his joke stayed the same, she could tell, it was a mask to hide his pain. There you are, Red. A voice spoke. That seemed to break her out of her thoughts. Looking around, she didn't see anybody here. But the voice had to come somewhere, so looking again she spotted someone, or should she say something, on her desk. It was a fox. A fox with 7 bushy tails, rabbit-like ears, black markings around its eyes, and blood-red slitted eyes. Kurama? She asked. Even with the change in size, new markings, the fact he had grown 6 more tails, she still recognized him. Do you know any other foxes that I don't know about? The fox asked sarcastically. But you can talk? She stated in shock. You didn't talk before. Last time you saw me I was a kid, you tried talking as an infant, he retorted. An uncomfortable silence grew between them. Why are you here? Rias finally asked. Well, Red, I saw your little reunion with Naruto. Kurama started. Rias frowned at the reminder. He's different, she stated. Yes, he is, he agreed. He's also still the same. What do you mean? Rias asked. Naruto has always been a very loving person, it runs in his family, Kurama stated. Naruto would go from heaven to hell for someone he cares about, he told her. She smiled. That was one of the things she remembered about him. It was one of the best things about him. She was glad that hadn't been a thing that had changed in all these years. But that love, that very quality, it's a blessing as much as it is a curse, Kurama continued. What do you mean? She asked. Think about it. Naruto lost almost everyone he cared about. For someone as loving as Naruto, it is hell, Kurama informed. Simply put, Naruto is afraid, the fox told her. Scared? Rias asked, not see at what he was getting at. Naruto, someone who can and has fought heaven and hell, is scared, he repeated, but she still didn't get it. Scared of being hurt again. He's scared of losing the people close to him. Scared he isn't strong enough to protect them. So he pushes them away, so he doesn't get hurt again. Kurama lets that sink in. And it did. Rias thought about it. And again until finally she laughed. He really is an idiot, isn't he? Rias stated. Yes, he is, Kurama agreed. Because he doesn't realize that those who truly care about him, they aren't going to let him push them away. Rias realized something. He doesn't know you're here. No, he does not, Kitsun admitted. He then unfurled his tails, revealing something inside. Business cards? He walked over and placed them on the table. What's this? She asked. A wedding present, Kurama told her. Noticing her frown, he continued. Another thing about Naruto that hasn't changed is that for his loved ones, he will help them no matter what. Now the question is, Red, are you still his friend? He asked. The fox headed towards the window. Oh, and a bit of advice, if you want to find out about Naruto Uzumaki, ask the Lucifer about Indra Otsutsuki, Kurama instructed. The fox, instead of opening the window and leaving, decided to disappear into the shadows. Observing what the fox had left her, she noticed something. The cards were black on one side and red on the other. On the back was the same 3-tomo design Naruto had on his Sharingan. But on the back was a phone number, along with an intricate symbol, a summoning circle. These would prove useful. But first, she had to ask her brother about something. Lucifer Mansion. Long ago, before there were devils and fallen, there was just angels. The angels served God because he had created them. God gave the angels free will, and for that they loved him. But eventually God created humans, in his image. Humans soon became God's favorite. But eventually an angel got jealous of God and humanity. He loved God so much he had wanted to become him. He gathered others who had felt the same as himself, and staged a rebellion against God. This angel's name was Lucifer. But Lucifer's plan had failed, and in turn, God had cast those who revolted to hell. And instead of love, those cast out had felt nothing but hate. Their wings began to mutate and change. Their holy, angelic, dove-like wings began to morph into wings not unlike a bat's. Lucifer, angry at God, decided to use humanity's free will against them. Tempting the first humans with sin, they were cast out of Eden. Soon after, other angels fell from grace, but instead of casting out their love of God, they clung to it, making them fallen angels, whose wings resembled that of a crow. However, the newly made fallen angels were left without a home. They could no longer enter heaven, and the earth belonged to the humans, so that only left one place. And so the war for the underworld began, and soon heaven was dragged along with it. The Great War began, with a three-way battle between angels, devils, and fallen angels. Millennia passed, soon all three sides had lost too much. The fallen were the first to surrender, them losing many of their leaders. So the war between devils and angels began. But so the original Mao, Lucifer, Leviathan, Beelzebub, and Asmodeus had fallen. And God had been heavily injured. With the death of the Mao, the rise of the great king of the Baal clan kept the underworld in check. Many of the descendants of the Mao wanted to keep fighting. However, there were also those who wanted to stop. Soon a civil war started, with the old Satan faction being those who wanted to keep fighting, and the new devil faction being those who wanted to stop. Soon the new devil faction won, defeating the descendants of the Mao, and the strongest of the new devil faction claimed their names as a title. One of those devils being her older brother, formerly Serzex Gremory, the Crimson Satan, who, like her, wields the power of destruction of the Baal clan, combined with blood of the Gremory clan, which allowed for their members to have excellent control over their magic. This was Serzex Lucifer, the strongest Satan. And he was currently outstretching his arms waiting for her to give him a large hug. When she didn't, he pouted. Yes, the Lucifer, and the strongest devil in their faction was pouting. Rias. And now he was whining. It was subsequently stopped by Graphia, the strongest, queen, Lucifer's personal maid and her aunt. She grabbed his cheek, like a mother would a naughty child. Lucifer-sama, this is no way a Mao should act, she chastised. Au Guafia. He pleaded for her to stop, and after a few minutes, she finally let go, after she thought he learned his lesson. All right, her brother started, trying to regain his composure. What brings you here? Usually you want nothing to do with this place, he asked. I must admit I'm also curious, Graphia admitted. You called rather suddenly. It was lucky that we were able to squeeze you into Lucifer-sama's schedule. Had you not been Lucifer's sister, we wouldn't even have entertained the idea of a meeting. I hope you haven't lost the manners Lady Gremory has instilled in you in your time away from the underworld. What Graphia means is, she is happy to see you. He translated, clapping his hands together. He asked, so Rias, what's up? Well, recently I came across some information on a problem I've been having and was wondering if you could enlighten me on the subject. Rias asked. Serzex thought about it. All right, and what's the question? She didn't know how to phrase it right, so she just went out and said it. Who is Indra Otsutsuki? Rias asked. The mood instantly changed, with Serzex and Graphia having a stern expression. It was unnerving to see her usually goofy and kind brother. Rias, how did you find out that name? He asked harshly. She was a little taken aback at the sudden force. Just who was Indra Otsutsuki? How, Rias? He asked a little more forcefully. However, he realized how he was acting and calmed down, while his queen placed a comforting hand on his shoulder. I'm sorry, he hadn't meant to be so forceful. But Rias, how did you learn that name? I need to know. Rias bit her lip. Truthfully, she wanted to keep this information to herself. If I tell you, I want you both to promise you won't tell anybody else, she requested. All right. They both nodded. She paused, thinking on the best way to tell them. Recently I found out Naruto Uzumaki is alive. She decided to say it bluntly. What? Serzex asked, wondering if he heard her right. After visiting with him, she paused, not liking the memory it brought up. I was visited by his familiar, he gave me these. She placed a summoning card on the desk, and he told me to ask the Lucifer about Indra Otsutsuki. She told him. Serzex thought about this new information, going over everything she had just told him and what she had left out, until finally he came to a conclusion. Reaching into his desk, he pulled out a black book, on with a black cover and a similar 3-tomo pattern to Naruto's card. All right, I suppose it's time you learned the legend of Indra Otsutsuki. 8 years ago, A few hours after the attack, he had awoken. His magic reserves were rather low, and his eyes hurt like hell. He had awoken in the Konoha safe house, which was odd. The room was dark, but there were 3 occupants in the room. Ka-san? Tu-san? What are you doing? He asked. The expression on their faces conveyed full seriousness. They didn't answer his question, instead his father spoke something else. It's time you learned the legend of Indra Otsutsuki. Indra Otsutsuki? He muttered, the name sounded foreign to him and yet oddly not. It was like something he knew, but couldn't remember what it was. Naruto, what's the last thing you remember? His mother asked. He thought about it, the memory was a little fuzzy. I was with Rias, and we were attacked. I think I used the kunai Tu-san gave me to call him, and then He trailed off, not remembering anything else. It's alright if you don't remember anything else, his mother assured. His father nodded in agreement. Naruto, tonight when you were attacked, your eyes changed, his father told him. Changed? He questioned. His mother handed him a mirror. Activating his Sharingan, he could see his eyes had indeed changed. They had a 3rd tomo? 3? He said in shock. He turned to his parents. They had to know something. Naruto, it's time you learned of our clan's true history, his mother told him. Minato took out something from a drawer, a book. A book with a black cover and a 3-tomo design, similar to that of his eyes. His father flipped to the first page. It showed a brown-haired man with pale skin, a small pointed goatee and horn-like protrusion on his forehead. However, those weren't the strangest thing about the man, because he had 3 eyes. 2 of them being a light purple, with a ripple-like pattern, and the 3rd one, on his forehead, was a deep blood red. This man is Hagoromo Otsutsuki, otherwise known as God, Minato stated, as he and Kushina both winced at the mention of his holy name. This man in the picture was God, the creator of nearly all life and one of the strongest beings in existence. He flipped the page, and this time it showed 2 people. The one on the right had short, spiky brown hair, 2 locks of which were wrapped in bandages framing either side of his face. He possessed stern facial features. He had a pronounced jawline and short goatee similarly like the person in the first picture. His eyes were a golden color, and the pupils looked to be a mix between a slit and a bar-like pupil. But it was the man on the left that had caught his attention. He had long brown hair cut short on top. 2 locks wrapped in bandages framed either side of his face. His eyebrows were cut short, a symbol of nobility, and dark eyes. Wearing his hair back in a long cylinder and blue markings around his eyes, which were turned up at the corners. He also had something different about him. His eyes were a blood red with 3 tomo just like his own. This is Azura Otsutsuki, his father named the right one. And this is Indra Otsutsuki. His mother named the one on the left. Long ago, before Hagoromo had created humans or angels, his first 2 creations were 2 brothers. Indra Otsutsuki being the elder and Azura Otsutsuki being the youngest. The 2 were his sons in every sense of the word. Hagoromo had even gifted them both a portion of his power. Indra inherited Hagoromo's eyes, while Azura inherited his body, yin and yang, imagination and form. As time went on, Hagoromo began to create more creations, Minato explained. He turned the page. It was a picture of Indra fighting both God and Azura. Nobody knows why, but soon after Indra began to revolt, clashing with both his father and brother. The fight lasted for several days. In the end, Indra and Azura both landed a blow against one another that would eventually lead to both their demises. With Indra defeated, Hagoromo created a place to keep his elder son. A place of fire and heat. He named this place Hell. The picture was of Indra being cast out of heaven, similar to that of a certain seraphim. Then a picture of a white and red fan, a clan symbol one he didn't recognize. Indra's descendants began to inherit his Dijitsu. This being the Uchiha clan, which later a portion of the clan split off and became the Uzumaki clan. Kushina explained. A picture of a Sharingan design with the 3 tomo interlocked in a kaleidoscope-like design. Some of the descendants were able to evolve their eyes, being able to channel a fraction of Indra's power, but at a cost. The more they used these eyes, the more they would succumb to blindness. No descendants' eyes were as powerful as our predecessors. That was until a picture of a man who was overshadowed by darkness. His eyes were a similar 3 tomo pattern. He had long spiked black hair and wore red plated armor. One day a Uchiha would come to inherit Indra's full power. Minato hissed, showing his disdain at the man. But soon the power began to corrupt the man, and he soon succumbed to madness. Kushina finished. As he sat there listening to the tale, he grew slightly fearful at the thought of ending up like the men in the book. So will I end up like them too? He asked timidly. Kushina hugged him tightly. Of course not, and present. That's only how the legend goes. Surzex finished. I see, Rias stated. The tale was wild, it contradicted a lot of things with what they taught her before. An original inhabitant of hell. Beings in their faction that could stand toe to toe with God himself. Angels not being the first creation of God. Lucifer not being the first to betray God. If you will excuse me, I think I'll take my leave. This trip has certainly been informative. And after receiving a nod, she left, leaving her brother and aunt alone. It certainly has been, Rias, it certainly has, Surzex said, inspecting a summoning card Rias had left behind. With the rumors of a certain ghost that has been culminating throughout the years, he could only come to one conclusion. One his, Queen, also came to. Do you plan to inform the other Satans of this information? Grafia asked. He thought about it. We can't do that. After all, we promised Rias we'd keep this a secret. You can't possibly be serious. You do know what the Indra being alive could mean? Grafia questioned. I'm totally serious. I can't be breaking a promise to my Ria Tan, he said childishly. Surzek's mood changed, becoming more serious. And I know exactly what it means. He turned the page and read aloud, the one who inherits Indra's power is destined to cause a great change within the underworld. As she stared at the defeated form of her pawn, she could only say one thing. Grafia, tell my brother I agree to the raiding game. Grafia stepped forward. I will inform him immediately. Riser laughed at that. Riser, she turned toward him and gave an icy glare. Believe me when I say we will annihilate you, she told him. He just walked off. I look forward to it, dear. Riser will see you in the game. And with that, he teleported back to the underworld in a ball of fire, laughing all the while. She, on the other hand, was plotting. Her peerage wasn't strong enough to beat the immortal Phoenix on their own. They had a limited amount of time to prepare. They would need help. And for that, she would need to do something drastic. Riser had chosen the perfect time to strike at her and her peerage. Although technically she had 13 pieces at the moment, many of which were either not able to compete or were in her newest pawn. Issei would undoubtedly become a powerful devil if trained properly, but as of right now he was a hindrance, as he counted as 8 pieces. It was the fact she had so few members which protected her from having to challenge Riser just yet. They would need a miracle to help them in such a short amount of time. She wasn't stupid enough to think otherwise. But who better than that of the person with the power of God? She opened the drawer of her desk. She's searching for the card she had received a week ago. She was alone in the room. After having Issei healed, she had requested for her peerage to leave her alone for a bit, to come up with a training routine. While it wasn't entirely wrong, it wasn't the whole truth. Holding the card in her hand, she examined it. Summoning cards were made to sense desires. A majority of the time they were given to humans, as they were the most likely to summon them. But other creatures were not incapable of using them. It was that they weren't likely to summon a member not of their species, though the reasons varied. She thought of her desires, to be free of her marriage, to get stronger, to be able to protect her family, to see her friend. An eerie glow emanated from the card. Within an instant, a roaring black fire emerged within the room, shaping itself into the 3 tomos symbol of the Indra Otsutsuki. A figure stepped forward. The same masked figure that had saved her peerage weeks ago had emerged. She could tell that it was not her he had been expecting. The problem with summoning cards was that you didn't know who was summoning you. That's why you would usually schedule times for regulars and use other forms of communication to contact clients. You needed to be careful with who you give them to. Who had he been expecting? She didn't know, but it didn't matter at the moment. His eye morphed into its evolved form. He had attempted to use the transportation techniques she had seen him use. She needed to act quick. She grabbed onto his arm, and he stiffened at her touch. Don't go, please, she begged. The pain of losing him again was too much for her as a few stray tears leaked from her eyes. Though she wiped them away, it wouldn't do good to cry right now. She needed to be strong. He was silent, as he always had been. She reached up and grabbed onto his mask. Surprisingly, he didn't offer any resistance to the action. Pulling it off, she recognized Naruto Namikaze. But in an instant his appearance changed. His black hair and pale skin becoming a golden blonde with a nice tan before her very eyes. Inwardly she laughed. Only Naruto would change his appearance, only to keep the same name when going undercover. Had he known that they were going to be attacked? She would have to ask him about that later, but for now she needed to tell him something. You say you're different, you say that my best friend had died long ago. She repeated what he had told her. But if Naruto Uzumaki had died so long ago, you wouldn't have come to save me. You wouldn't have protected me from that man that kidnapped us, she reasoned. He opened his mouth to speak, but she had cut him off. If my friend is still in there, just listen to me. Please? She pleaded. He thought about it, the silence engulfing the room, until finally it was broken. All right. He conceded. She smiled. So, your parents set you up in an arranged marriage with Rias, and the only way to annul the agreement is to prove your strength in a rating game against your fiancé.